anything we asked them, like Trumps, they were hanging out, they were like.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ben, would you lead us to the pledge? Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
There's a Ben in the audience. I was right now toward you'll meet him in the mind. It's another Ben. Ben's all over the place. But we'll get to that in a bit. We have a little bit of an issue inside minutes here. So one thing was that the special meeting minutes were not actually included. And another is that one of the 7 minutes probably can't be moved forward because of a internal squabble that won't be resolved tonight. So I believe we can do the 7:25 minutes. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Can I get a motion that the minutes of the July 25th, 2022 meeting be approved?
Make that motion.
Trustee Fondainsa, trustee Cormos, discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I believe we had the special meeting on 8/1. Is that accurate? I get a motion that the minutes of the August 1st, 2022 special meeting be approved.
I make that motion.
Trustee Fondainsa.
I'll second, but I want to discuss.
Okay, second is by trustee Baskin, and now discuss on, okay, so a couple things I want to say. First off, please refrain from directing village staff on these things. If you have issues with them, please send them to me and I'll be happy to sort through them because the trustees cannot direct village staff. That's just one other thing I want to get clear. I got a little uncomfortable with some of the tone and approach on some of the emails this week. Now, what was the specific question or issue besides you'd sent in the attachments here of the statements, I think it was, in the special meeting?
Yeah, I
workshop?
just want to make sure we pass the motion that when statements are not just by trustees, but by the public are read at board meetings and submitted, that they would be attached to the minutes at the end, and it can be very clear that these are statements submitted by.
I apologize, I'm human. It was an oversight that I didn't attach them.
Okay, good. So, and the understanding is, I just want to make sure we all understand. So that's not just for that meeting, but any meeting where there's a statement attached. And it'll be on the website too with the attachment.
Jen puts everything on the website, so I assume that she puts anything else on
All
her.
right, great.
I would also just like to say, on that meeting, we did have statements, but when we read the minutes, it would be nice to, not just have one side and then say it's all in the statements, to just synopsis what the person actually said at the meeting, not read the whole thing, but.
It's my prerogative as the clerk to just attach if I so choose, because it does give the whole thing of what you read.
But you did summarize what other folks said, so it seems like you're waiting for what did the other person say?
Well, I'm gonna jump in. I think let's not make excessive work for our staff. If you already submitted a statement in full, which will be attached at the end, leave it at B. It will be included and your statements will not be curtailed in any way. So I don't see any point of it making extra work if it's already.
No, I mean, it was the back and forth that came after.
Your statement you provided in full, and you were reading it provided in full. So I see no point of making excess work for our staff when you're going to summarize and then attach the same information at the end.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will hold off on the minutes from 8/8/22. Mayor announcements. Family Fun Day has led to Family Fatigue Day, I think, today. But for really good reasons, and thank you again to everybody. I'll have some stuff on social media, some photos and stuff from my. A lot of people threw me a lot of different things to post or whatnot. I do want to put it up on social media because it was such a special event. We estimate about 2,500 people came through during the day. It was consistent. It was just phenomenal and emotional, honestly, for a lot of us to see something that I guess for 5 years was put in the back burner for various reasons. Come back. Thank you to Gina and Mark for leading the charge on it. The committee did phenomenal. The volunteers were great. Are there things that could be tweaked in the future? Absolutely. But there was no major problem we ran into all day, and that for an event that hasn't happened in 5 years, to be able to say that is special. And so we'll call it the first annual Reimagine Family Fun Day, I guess, and look forward to the second annual version, hopefully next year. As long as somebody in the second row doesn't throw me on my head outside the window. But no, again, thank you to everybody. Thank you everybody that attended as well, and for all the comments. Actually, I did want to read one I did receive. I remember the name, so I can at least type it up real fast here. Named Travis said, Mr. Rossi wanted to send a message of thanks for the Family Fun Day this past weekend. My 10-year-old nephew was not only able to have a great time, but he also received a bunch of needed school supplies and a bike helmet. These types of community events are what will strengthen our society and help keep it headed in the right direction. Many families across the country are facing increased financial pressure, so having an event such as the Family Fun Day is both a wonderful break and, in the case of my family, a helping hand. Too often I've witnessed the demise of the community, and it all starts when people stop caring about it. So thank you for the wonderful event, and I hope you have a great week ahead, Travis. And
Oh my God.
if you don't get a little welled up from that. Just a couple other brief things, because I promised everybody at this table that I would keep this short tonight. My end, at least, New York Forward, our grant application, pre-application, I should say, is in the intent to apply, they call it. We invited our regional planning committee group to join the initial call. And I got to say, the representation we had on that Zoom call was the most out of any community that was on that call. Now, it will be stiff competition. I believe there were over 20 folks or 20 municipalities in this region that are applying for New York Forward, and some of which that applied for DRI didn't belong applying for DRI because they spotted that those communities were much too small to really qualify for the $10 million DRI grants. So they're going to push those applications over to New York Forward, most likely. Long story short, we keep saying it, you read the qualifications, you hear all the materials, or hear the stuff from the materials that they're presenting, and it's like Ballston Spa, the village, was absolutely the community they had in mind when they created some of these things. So we're going to push forward. Burnett and I are going to jump on a call with the free, I guess, counseling. Basically, they provide consulting firm that is engaged with the state to begin talking about what the next steps are for the process, and then we will be reporting back to our regional planning committee to help move this along for the application next month. We're taking it seriously, and the biggest thing we heard, and I agree with, is win or lose in this process. We're going to learn a lot about ourselves as a village in terms of what we have in needs and what we need to really focus on. And while we think we know what we need to focus on, a lot of communities in these processes have learned a lot more about things along the way about themselves. So I look forward to this opportunity, and hopefully we win $2.25 or $4.5 million for our community in the process.
Eric, what is the regional planning group
It's that committee at the end that we have filled in,
that
the 10 members, yeah.
you didn't have a group by the board?
You gave
You didn't
me,
even have it reviewed by the board.
well, Liz, it needed to be included with that, so you gave me approval to submit.
But we should have, these kind of committees, I think, should be a group effort, not just you, assigning people,
If I recall it correctly, it was emails everybody and you
not,
actually.
not with names.
No, not, the application had,
In fact, well, no, actually, I feel like you had the updates and you appreciated that Frank included some of the language that you suggested. And I'm
yes,
pretty sure that.
and that was when you had already submitted
It was
to
already-
New York Forward. They were,
Right, those
Well,
can be
these are people
changed.
that are in our committee, they're or the people that are in committee are small business owners, they're people that are really passionate about getting to know, there's some Democrats, there's some Republicans.
It's the
some
process
people.
that.
You guys love the process.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have a great committee working forward and they've already been involved with the webinars. You know, some have passed already, but I know that there's, they've been watching the past ones, which also include the information, what do you call it, the slide deck. And there's ones that are coming up that people will be signing up for. So they're already working diligently.
As
for
board
this
members,
village.
we won't apologize for wanting to be
That's
involved in village business.
Oh, that's all right. Well, I
Yeah,
have
that's-
to apologize for the people that have signed up and not offered their time.
And as mayor, I will apologize for filling out a form and its completion when we didn't have a full form to be able to submit unless I did so at that point in time. And we also are understanding that we can swap out if necessary names. So we would rather have 10 names represented and make any changes we need to if somebody can't fulfill their duties. And if you want to have some say in who replaced them, you let me know. Next up, the visioning session for the Comprehensive Plan Committee is on August 30th, which is Tuesday, 7 p.m. at the 50 High Street County Building Auditorium. This is a very important part of the master plan or comprehensive plan. Essentially, you're going to give a lot of input or have the ability to give a lot of input about what has been kind of said already, where we go from here, and it will help formulate the draft that will be coming up of the comprehensive plan. So you'll want to attend that if you have an interest in that comprehensive plan of the Village of Ballston Spa. There may be ability to get on Zoom, I believe, as well, but I would suggest if you do have the interest, I know they've had some problems with their Zoom from time to time, come in person. There's no reason not to. It's a nice large room. So we will hopefully see you there.
Also, there's a survey online that people can fill out. Right,
Are
on
there any
Facebook.
members from the comprehensive plan committee on the?
Karen Martell, Chair. So,
Because
we
there's a
we
lot
matched
of
up.
overlap between what New York Forward is proposing that you do. to
Karen was
prepare.
involved
I
from
wanted-
the beginning.
yeah.
Going back to Ben's point of that, sorry, Mary, these are your announcements, but I did want to mention, someone did have a question regarding whether those surveys would be accepted after this meeting, and they will be included in the final report.
About half the members, by the way, on the regional planning committee were people that matched up with yours. Give or take about half.
Okay,
So-
I just would have been courteous to allow us to see and comment before you sent it.
Anyway, time for liaison reports, and Liz, since you have a lot to say tonight, go right ahead.
Well, the only liaison reports for the library because Park and Tree didn't have their last meeting. The library trustees are actively, going to engage friends of the library to help with the fundraising for the library improvements, and they formed a subcommittee to identify various grants that they want to apply for. So they're moving forward on this plan to improve the library. That's about it.
I got an email from Ballston area seniors. They're having an office on aging picnic at the fairgrounds September 8th. $4 donation. Any seniors, member or non-member invited. They're also having a sign up for Paint and Go held on Friday, September 16th, 1 to 3 p.m. And flea markets Saturday, October 22nd.
Is there a correction to be made in the audience? Because I see some,
It's the Office of the Aging, that running the senior.
What did I say?
Seniors, all seniors.
What?
You said the Ballston Spa senior.
Ballston area seniors.
Ballston area seniors is who this is reporting about, the Office on Aging that they think that's the fairgrounds, right? And then we'll talk more about the Park and Tree Board in the motion that's coming up later. And then there was an arts committee that I was not invited to that burned out. Maybe you can update us on what's happening in the arts world.
Ben, actually, you were invited, you chose.
No, I was not.
Yes, you were invited.
uninvited.
And I'm sure, please let me
Okay.
continue. We would have
Can I-
been a lot of conversation.
Yeah. I need to stop at this point, and I will take responsibility for the offhanded statement to Liz. Folks, we just came off of a great day yesterday. We applied for a grant These meetings will be watched by the powers that be that will decide on these grants. Why don't we act like civilized human beings instead of jackasses at the end of the day and present our village as well as we did yesterday, please? That's all I'm asking at this point. Liz, if you had an issue with who I put on it, you've had a week to tell me about it.
No,
Almost a
as
week.
you did not listen to what Ben said, it's about the process.
Okay, Liz,
about
you can
leaving.
easily email me about the process. Say, like I said to Ken the other day, there's a time, there's a place, we use email to have discussions instead of bringing everything out in a meeting over and over again and make these things 4 hours long. For that, go ahead with liaison report.
Sure, regarding that meeting with Arts and the BSBPA, it was basically called to see how Arts and BSBPA can work together. There's overlap of what they do in a good way, where they can collaborate. So basically discussions were, and it was really wonderful for the BSBPA to hear people from their group what the Arts Committee is intending to do. And it's good for the community to know. They really would like to be kind of a central place where the community can find out about music events or art walk events or anything, you know, we might have artisans that apply and are planning on doing something for the community. So one of the discussions that came out of that is we're looking next year to do improvements on Front Street. And actually it was the art committee that we were discussing, you know, it might be a hit to our small businesses, and we were trying to figure out every way possible to kind of lessen the hurt if there is any. So one of the suggestions that came up right away was maybe have an art walk during that time where we're working on the street to encourage people to get in our small businesses. A lot of our small businesses host art from different local artists. So that was one of the suggestions. Through those discussions, we had Kate Van Buren and Katie Tiedemann there, and they themselves were the ones that had kind of looked at their charter and felt it's kind of cumbersome and kind of confusing, actually very confusing. So they had asked if they can look it over and offer suggestions that we would bring to the board to make a motion to adjust that charter. So it was a really fruitful conversation. It was really great to get 2 different organizations together and how we can work better. So certainly more to come about that. And so far that's right. I'll have to report at this point because I didn't get to go to the last BSBPA meeting, but they're working on things. Car show, that's probably the biggest thing. Car show will be October 9th. That's the Columbus Day weekend. So more from me, you guys, I'm sure will hear. So thank you.
Treasurer.
Okay. So I just want to reiterate that water and sewer payments are due by August 31st. So get them in before the 31st to avoid any penalties. That to be said, we are current on receiving any payments as of Friday. So if you believe you had sent or turned in a payment that was not cashed, please double check your bank accounts and give us a call. We'll find out a solution on what you can do to turn in a payment to avoid penalties. That to be said, if it was received over the weekend or today, give us some time. To reiterate on July activities, we have received our second ARPA payment, and that's the American Rescue Plan Act. That second payment was $267,999.18. To date, we have reserved $152,680, and that was for the Lowell Street pump replacement and $45,000 for the LaBerge water consultant. That's the name of it.
Like these always say.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That to be said, that leaves about $383,000 to dedicate to a project before December 31st of 2024, and expend those funds before December 31st of 2026. So we have just over 2 years left to figure out what we're going to do with those funds, and 4 years to expend it. Pool fees received for this fiscal year, so June and July, is $21,772, which is approximately $4,000 more than last year at this time.
Shocking with the heat we've had, huh?
And prior to so another major cash receipt that we received in the month of July is an $18,000 insurance receivable. And this was due to the problem we had a few months back, I believe in March, where a meter actually broke off of one of the pumps, causing water damage to our electrical panel. So the good news is the insurance paid that in full and we received the money for that. Year-to-date expenses for the year should be 17% for the first 2 months. General funds at general fund is at 17%. Sewer is at 27 and library is at 16. I did say for the month of June that the expenses were high year-to-date. But they'll start evening out because at the beginning of the fiscal year, there'll be a lot more expenses trying to get those orders in. Sewer fund is higher than normal, just because we're replacing catch basins to get ready for paving. And usually the sewer fund expenses kind of dwindle down and they're lessened throughout the year. So we're doing pretty good in terms of expenses for the year. And that's about it.
Thank you very much.
Julia, just, you go through that very quickly. Is it possible to email the board when your little notes?
Prior to the board meeting,
Yeah, or
I'll be honest with you,
Yeah.
I don't get them completed until about 3:30 on Monday.
or even the day after would be helpful. just
Oh,
to get
I mean,
some
yeah, I
time.
mean-
That's all right.
Yeah.
That would be great.
So originally, Dan Connor of Ballston Spa Central School District, our interim superintendent, was going to join us for a presentation tonight. Unfortunately, his schedule kind of got bogged down. He does want to reschedule with us next month or in October, and we'll do so with him. That gave us an opportunity actually to, with Mary Ann Morgan's help, who's the Open Space Committee chairwoman in the town of Milton, invite Ben Jewell to come in. He's an Eagle Scout who has a project that he wants to present to the board for approval that we will, it is not on a list of motions, but I had discussed briefly with Liz earlier today when she stopped by the office. There may be some time sensitivity with this, with the late in the season we are. And so, Ben, if you want to come up to that chair area there and talk to us about what we have. So Eagle Scout, right?
Eagle Scout candidate, yeah.
Yeah, make sure, why don't you sit in the chair if you want, and that was in the picture so everybody can see one of our local Eagle Scouts.
So good evening, Mayor Rossi and members of the village board and staff. I am Ben Jewell and I'm here to propose a plan for an Eagle project that I've been putting together at Woods Hall Nature Preserve on North Line Road. This property is owned by the village of Ballston Spa and serviced by the town of Milton, so I'm getting approval from both towns and villages. So the main things that I'd like to complete in this project are the creation of new trailhead kiosks and information posts, as well as improvements in navigation of the park. I don't know if you guys have been to the park before, but it's an amazing area. There's some things that needs replacing, so I'm just doing general servicing, improving that area so people can enjoy it more. So to expand upon this, I'm going to be removing all severely damaged kiosks throughout preserved entrances and creating and installing 3 large trailhead kiosks with information points. And I'm going to be building 5 smaller information posts covering all the other entrances to the park. So no matter where you come in, you can see the information, see the maps, etc. And all of these will contain basic information about the park as well as a park map that we're going to get printed. And I have a draft of the map with me if anyone would like to see it. I also have blueprints, a couple sheets if just anyone's interested. So yeah, that's about it. If there are any questions or concerns. let me know.
Now, Ben, as I've told Mary Ann, I've not spoken to you directly. We have some plans to do some deforesting of dead and semi-dead trees essentially throughout. We are working to get quotes on that over the next weeks. We have a call back tomorrow with one of the organizations, and we did a walkthrough with another. So we'll see where that leads to. But you're aware that we may be doing that. We'll keep you in the loop as to that. But what is your time frame so that we can make sure that we have everything coordinated here?
So I'm keeping my time frame as tight as possible. I'm trying to get it done by the end of the year, but if that's not going to happen, I'll try to get it done in spring. I'm thinking now mid to September to late November, mid-November is what I'm aiming for.
Okay, so let's stay in touch if you do get an approval with respect to when you are going to go in there and what is going on at that given time, because we'll try to make sure we have a schedule if there are trees coming down at some point and where that'll be. Okay.
Great. I'll also be contacting the highway departments of Milton to figure out when I'm going to rent services. So I'll let you know beforehand so I can figure that out with them as well.
Sure.
I think it sounds like a terrific project.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's our shortest and most efficient presentation ever. Thank you. To do all our presentations. Other business or old business, excuse me, water tank inspection reports. As you may have seen on social media, we got our 3 inspection reports back on our 3 water tanks. 2 of them came back with minor issues that can be resolved. The John Street tank is the one that I came back with an obvious need for at least a repainting in some way, shape, or form. We have to have a further discussion about that. Burdette, you have a very good email the other day to the board, so I'll let you kind of recap what that was and your thoughts and views.
Yes, the mayor had said the other, I can't talk, excuse me. With the exception of John Street, the rest of our tanks are in fairly good shape. They really just need a review.
Good and loud for me.
I don't have much of it.
I know you don't.
Too much fun yesterday.
Too much
with the
mainly
kids.
fun.
Hopefully everybody on Zoom can hear me. Colonial Hills, Round Street, those tanks are good. They're in good shape. They kind of just need some safety things for staff if they're, climbing upstairs or are on top of that. That's too scary to be on top, in my opinion, the height. But they need some skid resistant materials on top. So, and there needs to be some updating with our fencing, and so just regular pressure washing, general stuff done to our tanks. That's what down at Colonial Hills and Round Street tanks. And we just recommended reinspection every 5 years. These are recommendations from the Atlantic Underwater Services, who just our recent studies. But going to our John Street tank, which was built in 1979, so it's our oldest tank. It needs more attention. They found that, I found it very interesting. At one point they tried to get a measurement of the original thickness of the metal, and basically said, because the metal is so affected by rust, it doesn't necessarily say it's unsafe, it's just all affected by rust, that they can't get an original measurement on the material. So it's pretty corroded. They recommended well, they suggested that it's due to icing issues and also antenna installations. And they also noted that there's the seal between the base and the tank has some problems. So they recommended a few things. One notably is that the resealing of both the outside and the inside of the tank. So there's just some things that we need to address and need to kind of get on a schedule and figure out financially what to do with them. So I think we need to get moving with it now that we have this information.
And the general statement was that it needs to be considered to be repainted in the next few years, which means that with the right planning and grant opportunities that go with that, we can address that in some kind of short-ish order at the very least here, and make sure that we get that taken care of. But with the other 2 tanks, they suggested we would be at least 5 years away from the likelihood of needing to revisit the repainting of those. But they are also different. They're blast line tanks, whereas this is not the John Street Tower. So just some more information there. Liz, Ben, anything that you have with respect to that, and ideas or thoughts?
Yeah, I think, Bernadette did a fine job of summarizing their recommendations, and I think the major issue is the welded steel and the fact that it's 43 years old versus the other tanks, which the next tank is 34 years old and it's fine. It needs a little update, maintenance, and so on. One of the thoughts is that even repainting it, according to the LaBerge estimates, is 1.8 million.
No, that's inaccurate. That would be representing is if adhesion would not work and you needed to grind down to bare steel, then you would have that issue. So we have not had the opportunity, because Don Rose has been on vacation. Now that we have these reports to view it with this report now. They did do an adhesion test on the outside, I believe, and it came back as 5A, which means that there was some adhesion ability, at least on the exterior. It's a different question on the interior. And we did come in under budget with these studies in the first place by about $5,000 or $4,000. There may be some use to actually empty the tank, get the other tanks to fill in basically for it, and send somebody in to actually physically conduct testing to make sure whether or not the inside of the tank can be used for adhesion purposes, the repainting or not.
So it could, if the paint doesn't indeed could be,
I
but
hear you.
but do we have an estimate on if the paint does stick, basically what that would, it still runs a lot.
A few $100,000 compared to 1.5 million. So it is remarkably different.
My first question on that, because, you know, in past discussions with John, et cetera, and other engineers, they said, you know, if you get a chance to replace the tank with a glass line, that buys you 50 years of, you know, no maintenance, basically, hardly any. Now, there's a trade-off, of course. The new tank would cost a lot more. But I'd like to see the focus of, okay, let's get a firm price for repainting. How many years does that buy us? And, you know, versus, because I think we need to look at that to make the sound that.
Ben, anything? You know, we sent a brief email earlier today.
I agree with that. And yeah, it sounds like DPW could do a number of the items Jordan said. There's a barbed wire that needs to be added to all the fences, and no trespassing signs, and power washing. So hopefully we get this kind of thing done before too long. And then, yeah, one remaining thing.
Well, the other thing is if there is grant, because that was part of the equation.
Well,
For
now,
a new tank, and I believe there was some sort of grant that we could have applied for, you know, had we had this information sooner.
however, we definitely, Don's estimation, we're not ready in any way, shape, or form at this go around. Remember though, that it is a 30% match, I believe, on IWEA. So if you're talking about $1.5 million replacement, you're talking $450,000. And the other problem is it's a highly competitive grant, so you're not guaranteed it either. So
Well, but if we do have, you know, until, what was it, a couple of years, in other words, the whole scared thing about we're gonna run out of water, or the tank's gonna fail, turns out not to be the case, so we have some time. And, you know, it may make sense to apply, you know, in the next round for, if we don't get it, then we see with, you know, the lower cost option.
my one statement to what you just said is the statements from before were essentially sitting there and not doing studies on your tanks and towers and taking an action or doing study after study after study wasn't the way to handle it. I think we finally did something here that got us actual information, and thanks to Don Rose for his leadership with respect to that from the Verge, to start going in the direction to get things remedied here, because it's clear there needs to be a remedy for this soon. Now, is it tomorrow? No. Is it a year from now? It's getting there. So let's act. We'll start with Don when he gets back.
We needed to pull the study first to give us the answers. Now we can.
Actually, we were late on getting our tank studies done. That was handed to me basically through the door, and we finally got it done. Those studies that you saw should have been done well before that. We were basically 3 months late because we didn't get a chance to get on top of it until that point in time. Let's be careful of what we say and talk about. Audit cost financial statement. Julie, if you want to go back on here and talk about what we have and what we may need still and where we should go with it.
Okay, so in the set of attachments set with the agenda, there's a proposal from Teal Becker, who did our last year's fiscal year audit, as well as our Section 8 audits for the last year and a series of years prior to that. That proposal that he sent us, actually, he gave me a phone call prior to sending this, stating since we are looking for end of year audits, as well as the need for a single audit whenever we close on a USDA loan, he'd feel most comfortable doing a 3-year contract. That we do yearly audits for 3 years, one being this fiscal year that just ended in May, going out to 2024. Yes. That way, when the single audit is needed, he'd already have our end of year audits already lined up and is comfortable and familiar with what we're doing, how we're doing things. So the proposal that he had sent is for a financial statement audit. And if you looked in the proposal itself, he didn't give us an exact quote. It was still a range which he had spoken to me with prior, between 20 and 30,000. each year, with a 5% increase for each year after. So that to be said, we had discussed getting just end of year procedure, AUP, I'm missing the words. AUP audit. Basically to be audited on procedures like you did at this last fiscal year when we had a presentation a few months back. I have yet to get that proposal. This last one we had ranged about $9,500, but it's definitely going to be increased from that. Like I said, I had requested to get a 3-year contract, just like the proposal we already received, but I have again yet to have that in. That again begs the question. We're trying to get this audit service contracted so we can move forward with the USDA ordering process and loan process.
So I don't think we have the ability to take action here tonight because I don't think we have the full information to do so, but I did want to at least flag where we are with it by putting on here and then seeing if there's anything else we'll need for the next meeting besides a breakdown without financial statement ultimately for this. So anything?
Did we indicate we wanted the gap audit? I thought we were thinking the other way.
Well, it is a GAPS audit, but one of them is in combination with a financial statement, which gives the opinions on our AUV. What we had previously is just an audit on agreed upon procedures. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Which again, it looks at our AUV that's submitted, and based off of what's on the AUV alone, would make the opinions or adverse opinions depending on what's in there. Based off of only our AUV, which is lacking those opinions and statements that a financial statement would have with it.
So with the loan, we need more.
With the loan, we will need a single audit. And again, because we don't know when we're closing on the loan, we don't know which year. And truthfully, it probably makes sense for the village to do a 3-year contract just to make sure that we have it in line, we're on the schedule, we're not, keep pushing it back like we haven't. Previous years, that will be an additional cost on top of the 20 to 30,000 financial statement audit that we got the proposal for. But at least we would have his firm contracted in which the USDA loan application process is required.
So would we get price for that extra work that has to be done for the loan?
Yeah, that's in the proposal.
That's in the
Yeah,
proposal.
I
But
think
could we also potentially get, since it is a 3-year, that maybe we wouldn't need the full financial audit every year, so we could do maybe 1 year and then the next not, and then one.
I don't believe that he'd be comfortable doing that just because once you get that financial statement in order, it's actually more cost effective to keep it going rather than drop it off 1 year and pick it up again.
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, price goes up just for inflation and increases in money, but that's why we were requesting just the agreed upon procedures audit for 3 years with the single audit, and that works.
Can we get a firm price?
That's what we're aiming to
So
do right now.
even if you were to decide to go with the financial statement, you don't want that range. You're saying you can narrow that down if you want to go.
Yeah, that's a big range.
It is a big range.
I mean, when I write proposals, they want the dollar value and
I agree.
everything.
I agree.
And when you can name your price like that, it means that there aren't many in the field and they feel the ability to do it. By the way, for the astute viewers of these meetings, this is not Carla Bedner next to me. Mark's a little bit taken aback. He thought it was. For those who have attended a planning or zoning meeting, however, you may recognize her. Go ahead.
I'm Stephanie Bitter. I'm usually at the planning and zoning. This is actually my first appearance at Board of Trustees, so it's good to see all your faces.
Will you be saying that in an hour? That's all I got. Carla is out celebrating with her family and some stuff going on, and we told her to take the night off for sure. Great to see failed to show back up after he went through our organizational meeting. So Stephanie, you were the short straw winner this go around. Thanks for coming. We have no new business identified here, so we will.
Excuse me, because I think it's actually old business, but,
Okay.
2 topics. One, which we discussed over email was, I think Ben questioned what we were doing about Village Hall, essential, repairs. Yes, village office repairs, and he responded that this is a central project for forward grant proposal. We're working to embrace that project in our application with free consultants the state will provide us. As I understand the New York Forward, those consultants are planning consultants. They're not engineers, etc. And we did have an engineering
Let me
study.
guess, it's a study.
It's a engineering structural analysis that was conducted in August of 2020.
And it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, as you said it to me.
Excuse me. Can I finish, please?
Yes.
Thank you. What the recommendation was. There's two major recommendations that I'm concerned with. One is on page 6, the vault below the sidewalk along Front Street and below the brownstone stairs is in poor condition and has exceeded its useful service life. They give options for repairing it, but then they say, no, this work should be advanced regardless of the proposed building renovations or planned use due to the implications to the safety and stability of the public sidewalk. Likewise, the same a statement was made for the retaining wall. When Mayor Woolbright, he put everything together along with other renovations and went out for a bid.
Mhm.
And it came back a lot of money.
Mhm.
What I'd like to see is for you to get 2 quotes for each of these things because they are a liability issue. They're recommended within 6 months in 2009. And so the New York Forward folks aren't going to help you with this issue. If they see this report, they're going to probably tell you, you need to fix that.
Liz, they're going to tell us we need to fix a lot of things. That's why New York Forward exists, to actually fix things that are problems and to encourage vacant floors, et cetera, in buildings, including ours, to be made in a way that they won't be vacancies any longer.
So you're proposing waiting until we get a New York Forward if we might.
No, actually,
get-
what I said in the email, as you read it, was we're going to be getting some free consulting services to discuss what we can and can't do in this respect. And so over the next month, which is the application time, if I remember correctly here, that we're going to be bringing this up and seeing where to go with it with respect to that.
There, in my mind, there's only one answer. You're
And
supposed
so
to get
what,
this fixed.
so, okay, and you've been here for 3.5 years and you haven't fixed it yet. So what the hell's the problem?
The problem is the mayor.
2 years ago, you should have had it, you idiot. Wasn't there.
The mayor at the time did not.
Oh, come on. Did you, Christine?
Where's the gavel? With this.
No, Mayor Woolbright left. Christine wasn't in long enough to get this done.
Really?
It's now yours.
Okay,
So please get this done. If you want, next time, next meeting, I'll put a motion for you to get estimates and find out how much it costs to repair these issues.
according to you, I would require a motion for those things, by the way. So just remember that.
It doesn't have to be an argument. These are pretty much self-contained kinds of projects that are, doesn't even matter.
How is this self-contained then? We already had an estimate of how much?
Well,
No,
that
how
estimate,
much?
that
How much?
estimate was not,
How much?
was
How much?
combined
It
multiple
doesn't matter.
projects.
Yes, it does. Actually, it does, because we have a budget we have to live by. And if we don't have the budget to do it, then we can't do it at that point. So how much was
Well, that was a lot of money.
How much was it?
I don't know.
it? 800,000.
But
But that
There's-
included
that
fixing
included
the
other
front,
things.
fixing this, and he went out for one.
If it doesn't include putting a coat of paint on the building to make it look like something worth something in this neighborhood, because it is a building with history and everything else, I'm not helping out with that, that's for sure. And once and for all
You
here,
mean you're
do it
not
once and
even-
right.
Structural issue in this building that could be a liability if that sidewalk collapses. You'd rather put flat paint on the building?
No, I said in addition to.
It won't cost us anything to get additional bids on separate projects rather than combining them.
critical issues. I'd like to put paint on the building too, but this is a liability issue for the village.
Well, here's the reality, Liz. You talked about a $1.8 million replacement of water tower. You talked about an $800,000 village offices situation. These have both been deteriorating under your watch. Which would you prefer I handle first? Because we can't do both, and I can't tell you much
We
more
have
than
to
that.
do both.
Of course, we can do both.
Really? Where are you gonna find that money? Tell me now. I'll go out and get it.
Well, for one, on the water tower, we just discovered we have a little bit of time.
A little bit of time? You
Yeah.
gotta start planning for this now, Liz.
I know we can start planning. I'm saying it doesn't have to be repaired tomorrow. This thing has been waiting
If
2
If
years.
it's a replacement, it's gonna cost us at minimum, even as a replacement with the 30% match on 9, we have $450,000.
And we will raise the water rates to pay for it.
Oh.
Why not?
Why?
I don't know. Why have you done the last 5 years, Liz? Or the 3.5 you've been here?
Well, there's many reasons why we have the situation we have.
Listen,
I'll go
listen,
back
Ben,
to-
Ben, I'm gonna tell you something, flat out.
So you're interrupting. I was just talking, you interrupted me.
Yeah, you know what,
So that's not.
Ben, because you're mentioning a name of somebody not even in this room to defend themselves, so
I'm just saying,
stop
What I was
thinking about
What I
it.
was
It's not what you said.
is that there are many reasons why we're in the current situation, but the situation is what it is. And we know that it's challenging. Let's just think about the options for these vital repairs along with the water tower. We're not saying do X, Y, and Z, but maybe we could get better bids that then give us information that will enable us to make some decisions.
You know what the price of everything is done since that last pricing you got? Better bids?
Well,
What world are you in right now?
So because something costs a lot, we're not gonna do it.
Nobody's saying that, Liz. I just said to you, you picked the poison you created in part. Go ahead. Which one
I
is
did
it?
not create this report. I am one person. I've been talking about the water tower since 2019.
Really? And
Yes.
why haven't you done anything about it in 3.5 years?
well, she's never been mayor.
She brought it up. It's
Lisa?
hard, it's a lot, but this is just crazy. There's no way to do this. Yeah. Total waste of people's time with bickering.
Well, I think we can
I'm
have. a
embarrassed for this village.
I agree.
It would be-
I'm embarrassed for this village.
I think this is an example where we can have a conversation without it being a big fight. We can just talk this out. And we can disagree without it becoming a yelling match or anything. It's, it's just, we're talking about issues. It's not like personal insult or anything. We don't have to we don't have to say, Liz, why didn't you do something? Just, we're talking about something that is an issue now. And what can we do about it? And maybe we do have to wait or whatever, but it's an issue and it's good to bring it forward because it's.
And I said, pick your poison here because you're not going to be able to handle both under the financial strain right now. So which is it going to be?
No, it is not one or the other. We addressed both topics.
With what money?
Well, there's been, first of all, there's probably new federal money that's coming out. And there's always grants that can be researched. So,
I don't believe that fixing the ball is that expensive. I was actually told that it is probably under the bid level by
Was,
the engineer.
was there any breakdown in that bid?
that bid was limited in its breakdown, I believe.
Yeah, and it
So
was
that's
from
one reason to
one,
get another. bid.
one party in the middle of COVID. And he wanted everything from one contractor, which means that contractor probably got subs and added that cost on his profit on the subs. All I'm saying is we need to get a cost on each of these items. Okay?
And then we have some information and we go, yes, there's no way we can do this
And
now.
then
Or
the engineer even said that the DPW could probably fix the default situation. There was a couple of options that they could do themselves. So we could potentially solve this for the cost of material.
So why haven't you sent DPW in or asked for DPW to be sent? in?
No, that's not a helpful question.
What, it isn't?
We're just, no, we're
I
here
don't
now today
direct
trying to
DPW,
solve.
I said-
you do.
I'm well aware, so why haven't you brought it up to me before that? Oh, what, hey, have DPW look at the ball, Frank.
We're doing it now. What's the difference?
Well, no, actually, we're asking me to get quotes, full-scale quotes.
Yeah.
That's a little different than sending Jeff down to inspect the vault.
Well, to somehow pursue, and obtain information on how to get these things fixed that are overdue. Whether it's DPW or through getting bids or getting an engineer back in there.
I mean, Chazen, which is now a Ballston, is you can talk to them. I talked to him, and he said, you know, that bundling everything together was probably the reason it was so expensive and it wasn't folded. Well, I'm asking you to move on this.
Just to get information, not to.
To bring it back to the board and say, we can do it ourselves, or we need to get a contractor.
So there were
and
two
it costs
things,
us.
that's one, that's number two.
Two things, one is the vault and the other is the retaining wall. We fixed the retaining
Well, no, you
wall.
said two issues to bring up in the new business.
Oh, on the new business? Okay,
We're
are
all
we done
business.
with this topic?
I think you're filibustering at this point about stuff that you're just going round and round about, yes.
My second point is a complaint I got from a resident about sign pollution in the village. That, yes, we have a primary coming up, and I think there are two people running, but all of a sudden it looks like it's right before a general election in town. And, you know, you're well aware of our 30-day temporary sign, and then assume, you know, you will enforce the, those 30-day limits, and then you don't have to look at lots of political signs.
The primary is tomorrow. Why don't we wait to see if they take them down, which they know they have to tomorrow? And then they get a new 30 days before the general at that point, as long as they follow the rules with what they have to put on behind the sign at that point. I don't get where you're going with this beyond.
No, I'm just saying that I got a complaint about that there is, you know, a lot of signs up, and that they called it sign pollution. And the other thing, which,
Number three, go ahead.
okay, was, it was the signs at, Iron Spring Park on the sponsors were political signs.
No, actually, they were donors and they happen to be politicians, and everybody had a fair opportunity, from what I understand, to give, because I asked that question. So,
Well,
Good ask Democrats too.
We didn't ask for it. They stepped up to us and asked, how can we help?
Donna Guerreros also went and asked the people, so.
but they were campaigning signs, not just, I think Mary Beth's sign was just Assemblywoman, but the other two signs were clearly
They're coming down
election.
tomorrow. They're not staying up.
And I just think that's inappropriate.
Right.
I think, because I think we should try to keep the politics out
It
of.
wasn't about politics. It was about them donating to our family fund day.
so I guess the question is, then, are you ready to give more money to replace that lost income if need be?
Well, actually, on the topic of Family Fun Day, I think it was a great success, and I think there's interest in doing it again. It was obviously a lot of work and a lot of volunteers. So I think we should, you know, when Julia gets all the financials in, we need to see, you know, how much it actually cost, how much money came from the village, how much was, you know, gotten from donors, and you know, get your input, what you would change, you know, what you would do differently, such that when we do budgeting next year, we will have a complete picture of it and be able to, you know, determine how much funds we can put in. Unless we see the whole picture, we have no idea of what's appropriate.
Public, it's time for public comment, number one. Anna Stanko, 3 minutes.
And Stanko, 32 10th Street, Ballston.
Good luck.
Number one, I'm pretty loud, Frank, you know that.
I just, you were tailing off there. I mean, gotta make sure, because Carol Beals always tells me she doesn't hear the speaker, so.
Carol, I'm here. Number one, that man right there, everybody ought to be giving that man right there a round of applause. He are getting down in this village. Without him, none of that would have happened yesterday. Gina was a tailwind. I'll give her that. But that man is phenomenal. I worked after work being there since 4 o'clock yesterday morning. He was still making god darn cotton candy. I have blue specks all up and down my arm from it flying at me until 6 o'clock at night. Amazing. And so many people in this room volunteered. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
You did too, Dan.
I did too, but he's the man. I'm kind of gonna go backwards a little bit on this sign pollution. Let's talk about the big sign that was at the corner 67 and 50 that was way too big for political signs, and somebody just went and cut it down the middle to make it 2 signs. Come on, sign pollution? When the other side got complained about, we went and took the sign down the very next day. When that sign got complained about, a person that lives on East High Street went and cut it in half so it would, come on, let's give that a break, the sign pollution nonsense. The second thing is, let's not blame Christine as mayor or Larry as mayor. This study is, from what I recall, Larry Woolbright wanted to paint Village Hall, and the board insisted that we have a structural study to the tune of $200 and some thousand, which was completed, you just said, Liz, in August of 2020. Larry was one man on the board. There were 4 other people that could have voted any repairs in, and it would have been done. So let's not pass the buck on to that man. There was you and Christine and Sean and whoever else, Ben, I don't know who, Noah. You guys could have all done it. You had the power. You didn't do it. So why bring it up today and say it's got to be done now?
Gotta be done.
You're right, but you should have done it.
30 seconds.
You should have done it then. Don't bring it up and put the pressure on Frank. He's done so much since he's been in here. He shames the rest of everybody. So let's just put the crap where it is. You had 4 people on the board that could have fixed the retaining wall, the cellar, and anything else just by a simple 4-to-1 vote, and you didn't do it. Don't argue with me. My time. My time. My time.
Have an estimate.
Thank you.
Next. Anybody else in the room? Kevin.
Can I just talk from back here?
Yep, just be good and loud as you always are.
Yeah, there you go. Bob Kavanaugh, 20 Crestline Drive, Forest Park. Just a couple of things. If you're concerned, I've noticed as I've been through these things, you can't make a decision. Back in the workshops for the DPW, there were 5 pieces of equipment that totaled 1.2 million, 3 million. Somewhere from 450, the trucks were 200. So you couldn't make a decision. So you bought all of them. You're crazy, okay? But let's go back to your concern about the Village Hall. I live in the hole in the bottom, okay? And I can assure you that the retaining wall by the sidewalk is your priority 1, because I sweep up mortar and stone coming out of it every day. I don't go back, and I get back into the vaults. There's nothing falling out of the ceiling back there. So I'll help you make your decision. Fix the retaining wall. Because if you don't fix that, pretty soon Bass Street's gonna come over in there. Then you're gonna get to repair the infrastructure on Bass Street. That's it for those. The other one is item number K, motion for electronic surveys. Once again, I guess I'm the person that's here to tell you your transparency sucks. Just because you want to do another electronic device. You don't know what we had. Anybody know what we had on the surveys so far that were sent out with the water bills? You know how many? Got any idea? Anybody else? I know you know.
Okay.
All right. So the ones that were enclosed with the water bills, we got 200 back, and we're only the 2nd week into bills coming back. So that was an effective way, and those are people that with your QRM codes and all your other crap, you will not hear from. So once again, you're taking a whole group of the people in this community and you're disenfranchising because you think you're being transparent. You're wrong. Thank you, Rob. Yes, sir. Hello, Ray. I almost didn't recognize you. Anybody back there?
Forgive me for not walking up there.
You're fine, Ray.
Ray Otten, 16 Middlebrook Avenue. Yesterday, personally thanked about 90% of the people in this room for helping put that thing on. It was the entire board that's here. And it was such a great event. I talked to some vendors. Okay, I don't know if anybody else did. I talked to some of the store vendors. They were thrilled. They stayed open late because they had people in their stores that didn't even know there were stores. They loved it. I had over 100 helmets that we gave away from Community Emergency Corps. I could have given another 50 away had I had another pair of hands. The person that was working with me, please don't assign me with her again because she was just no help whatsoever. She was great to work with, and she was the only one that tolerated me. So, the other question I have, well, you brought up this wall problem and the vault problem, and it was what, 800,000?
No, that was for a whole slew of work, including the windows and redoing the front and everything else. He bundled it all together and asked for a single quote from one fund. Only
Okay,
got
I
one
will,
response.
I will make a resolution, somebody's gotta do it for me, but I can save you $50,000. There's a building on Thompson Street that would be a perfect office building for this village. Okay, and it would cost you less than fixing the one that's there. Just throwing it out there. Oh, I bet you can. Everything that you got in those offices and your storage, I guarantee you can fit it all in that house and the building. I guarantee it. Guarantee it.
Can I just say I could barely hear what she said and you heard it all the way back there?
Yeah, I did. Oh, I'm a grandfather. I get to do this.
So you're selling for 750?
I will make a deal with you.
My also, I guess.
I'm on record. There, you write it down. Remember how to do that, right?
Now, of course, no.
Okay.
Now you're pushing it. Don't put me with him
We
next
know,
year.
we know.
That thinks to be over any minute.
Let's see, I have to be smart a little bit. I just want to know if there was a study done about the preserve being changed. Did we do any kind of study? Because we're going to do woodwork down there. We're going to be renovating. Is there any kind of a study that was done that's going to make this okay? I'm being a little sorry. What's, we need a consultant.
There is a project plan, I will tell you, that we ran. So,
That's what we need. Thank you.
anybody else in the room? Christine?
Christine Fitzpatrick, 31 Chapman Street, Ballston Spa. I just, a couple of things, just about this whole thing with Village Hall. This is my memory. We did have a study done for which Larry, what I called for, which took in all of this stuff, as Liz just said, with Village Hall. We then got it down to where we were debating this, and we were going to do the essential things, which were the wall and the vault under the sidewalk, and we were going to do those essential things in the time. And this is, you know, from what was debated, what was talked about. We were going to do that rather than, you know, in the time that was allowed. One of the last things, and we did that because the estimate came in at $800,000. And we were also going to not undertake a huge $800,000 revival of Village Hall before we made a decision about moving. Now, all of these things happen in the course of an administration. One of the last things I remember working on in my time as mayor was talking to somebody, getting the estimates to do these two jobs. One of them was the vault and the other was the retaining wall. And we decided those, and this takes time. It took time to find vendors. And there is a report in the ongoing projects or engineering, and I thought we put money. I thought at one point we put money in the budget to actually do the vault. Because one of the things we were told, and I don't disagree with you, Bob, I think both of them are very important, both the wall and the the vault, was that we could blow in or fill in something. And one of the last things I remember was finding out if we could still do that, and there was something in a valve in the ceiling, and what would the consequence be if we clogged up that valve. So we were working on getting it done. Okay, I was mayor for 5.5 months. Okay, Frank, I appreciate what you're saying, but everybody gets the problems that the last person had. That's just the nature of the beast and the nature of the job. And I was certainly dropped in it when Larry resigned. So I understand that you're saying that, you know, why didn't I do it or whatever, but please understand that we were in the process of doing it, and that the consequence of that everybody has something left over from the other people who didn't get done. The other thing is, I take exception to the fact that I'm sitting there while this conversation is going on, and I raise my hand. And I take exception to the fact that you look at me and say no, and won't take any input from me. At the same time, people are calling out from the audience. Now, that is process. And here's why it's important. Because you should be, why? Because people.
Because you're
I'm
over 3
just
minutes to
saying-
one, but
I'm just saying, no, I'm down to 32 seconds. That's process, and that's why it's important. And process should be applied equally.
it's 3 minutes on minutes, Christine.
No,
But
23 seconds.
But
Thank you.
that said, I would like to say one thing. When the back and forth was going on, I didn't mention your name in that process. I mentioned people that are existing on the board, because here's my view on the mayor situation, et cetera. What absolutely drives me nuts, and I was going to say it to Ben earlier, but I'm going to say it now. When they went up to talk in the north section, time to guess now. It's catchy. When they went up to the north section and talked to a gentleman up there, what they didn't realize was this was a lifelong friend of John Romano, and was blaming John Romano for all the ills of the north section streets, etc. I take exception to that. I take exception to some of the things said about Larry Wilbright, who it's amazing to me that John and Larry both have the tolerance not to show up to these meetings, because they respect the office of the mayor enough to understand there's no reason to come and criticize the current mayor for the reasons you've said yourself. I'm not going to say don't show up. That's not at all where I'm going with it, but I understand that I won't say anything about you as well for the same reasons. Okay, there is kind of a party or group here of mayors, former mayors, etc., and there's a common respect factor. I respect the fact that you were mayor for 5.5 months and you had a litany of issues to deal with. What I don't want to see happen here is this constant blaming of other mayors, etc., for things that people on this board did have the chance to take care of at various times and didn't do. Can I finish 1 second before I have you jump back in? So no, you will not hear me say about you. I did not say it about you, and I will not say it about you in that manner. And I do appreciate the idea, or would appreciate that you understand that, and don't come at me in that same way some days. If you have trouble with me, call me. You know where to find me. I'm always happy to talk with you, because you're a former mayor and have that knowledge.
All right, my reaction is not so much to what you're saying, but to the fact that we're talking about the board as a whole, of which I was a part, and I'm not saying that this is your doing, but I was a part, and what I'm trying to say is that we did try and solve the problem, and we were in the process of finding a solution to the vault and the wall when the administration changed, and now unfortunately it's your problem. I'm not blaming you. What my reaction is more to the fact that we're being told, why didn't you do anything in the 3.5 or years that you were a trustee? These things take time. They're big problems. They take a long time. to sort out. So
Yeah.
that's really my reaction, but I do take exception to when I wanted to add something to the fact that you said no to me. I'm respecting that.
I
But there
gavelled,
were people in
I
the
gavelled
audience.
Gina down because
No,
I
no,
didn't.
she got out everything she wanted to say, Frank, before you
Yeah.
gavelled her down. And the other thing that I will say is that you are absolutely right, that people will be looking at the behavior of this board, okay? And in terms of making decisions. And it is not just Ben or Liz who are the problem. You were very sarcastic with Liz tonight.
And I apologize for that earlier, did I not?
Okay, no, you said to her, Liz, you got a lot to say, so why don't you go first?
And I
That's
apologize for that.
sarcasm, okay, that's sarcasm. And that is something that's going to be, it's everybody is doing it, and it's not just Liz and Ben.
And you have a great deal of respect for other mayors, but you do not have the same respect for trustees.
I don't have respect for trustees that disrespect mayors, to be honest with you. I have no respect for what you did with John Romano's name up in the north section. With a lifelong Democrat who's a lifelong friend of John Romano, you should have known better and maybe done your research before you started opening your mouth about that.
This is
That
what
was
you do,
ridiculous.
Frank.
No, Ben,
All right,
Ben, no.
I'll answer what you're saying.
It- Yeah,
Yeah, our turn. We
Gina?
have plenty to say. Gina Morosi, 10 Old Glory Lane. I've been coming to meetings for the past 4 mayors. And I believe that there is supposed to be a level of respect for the sitting mayor by the previous mayors to not come to a meeting and lecture the current mayor. I have never seen this happen in the 20 some odd years of different mayors that I've witnessed in the meetings I've been to. And I also just witnessed a past mayor lecturing a current trustee about procedure. And when the procedure is a public comment, you get 3 minutes and you're done and you don't get a second bite at the apple. But for some reason, that past mayor feels that that rule doesn't apply to her because she just got a second bite at the apple. So I take offense at lecturing somebody about procedure when it works for you, but when it comes to procedure, it doesn't apply to you. So you might want to think about that. Thank you.
Mark.
Mark Black, 10 Thompson Street. First of all, I'd like to thank Anna for showing her appreciation, and I'd like to show appreciation for everyone that helped with Henry Fun Day, especially the DPW staff. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Those guys work their butts off. Thank you, sir. Really, they did incredible stuff. They're still doing incredible stuff. Gina and I got there at 11 o'clock this morning because we're lazy old people, and they had everything cleaned, put away, stuff delivered. Anyway, our staff is incredible. And then they helped us more. Ray, we are not moving because I just put banners up in the top floor and I'm not going up there again. They're all laid out and flattening out. We are not moving. I'm sorry, I put my foot down. Anyway, let's talk about procedure. Last week I was put through the ringer by you guys. I was asked to create an itemization for the birdhouse project. That has never been done before. I talked to Dana Warmer. It was not done for, it has not been done for any money you have given them in the past or any money that's in the present. That was a political move, Liz. And I'm sorry, because it actually was Sean, excuse me, I'm sorry I did that. It was Sean who requested those for me. That was a political move to antagonize and cause problems, okay? That when you talk, everyone talks about procedure, that was wrong. What happened to me last week, 2 weeks ago, was absolutely wrong and infringed upon my freedoms, that equal protection and equal rights under the law, okay? I don't know if you're that right, but why was it okay for money being given to the BSBPA for the Christmas parade, and there was no itemization for that, and yet I was asked for a complete itemization and it pulled apart and my integrity was in question. That was wrong, okay?
The birdhouse project to be sponsored by the village.
Excuse me?
The birdhouse project was to be a village project.
Just as the Christmas parade is the village Christmas parade. that the BSBPA puts on. The same thing with I believe they get money for multiple events. The problem is that the way you treated me was disrespectful and inconsistent with the process that you guys have done. The suing under the stars, even though they're a community art, they're a village thing. They got money. There was no question of how many hot dogs. What this does is challenge and antagonize the volunteers. Your comments, Liz, about how volunteers should act was inappropriate and rude and disrespectful for every volunteer.
What do you mean, how wrong is that?
You said, I believe your words were, don't whine about it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Something to that effect.
That was not to all volunteers, it was you.
To me,
Yes, because you were complaining about the amount of work and wanted to be
I was
paid for it.
I know what I was doing was saying I was not volunteering and that I was offering a program to the village. And this is what it was cost, because what Sean did was asking for an itemization. Labor is cost. Okay.
Peter?
You want to say something?
I mean, it does depend on the circumstance and specific. So for example, if it's a large contract of tens of thousands of dollars, or if we're contracting with a private entity, we all often will have a very extensive contract that we ask them, or that we create for them, so we know exactly what we're getting. So there is a whole spectrum. When it's smaller amounts, like 2,000, 3,000, and it's a village thing, like the under the star or something, then we may be less in need of a lot of details, but there is different
So
situation.
show me the law, the village law that says that you get to decide what the amount is. Because what you're saying now is there's two rules, one for big amounts, one for small amounts.
No, there's different.
Procurement
There's
policy is
also a
30,000
difference
separate.
between an established organization that's been doing it for years.
I've
you
done
know,
5 years. This is my 5th year doing the
No,
birdhouse program.
You were
5th
extending
year.
it. If it was the same program you did the first year, you probably not have an issue with it. But you gotta realize,
Yeah.
we were elected and our prime duty is to manage the village's finances.
Oh, am I allowed to respond to that? You spent $8,300 on a second lawyer to rewrite the PUDD, that when we had an excellent lawyer who already did it, and that was what your specialty is. You wasted that, Liz. Then you
No, we did
wasted.
not waste that.
It was thrown out. It was called garbage.
Let's not go there. If we're gonna, you want to respond directly,
And
that's not
then
responding
you
directly.
also spent $17,000.
Mark.
She's got her hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mark. Move on.
I will be the traffic director on this, folks in the audience. Thank you.
First, I want to apologize for storming out, but what I said, this is the back and forth and it's crazy. Lisa Spidell, 106 Prospect Street. Liz, thank you for bringing up some things that may have been forgotten or whatever. I don't think it's something that has to be discussed or debated or anything like that. I don't think that was the purpose of bringing it up. I think it's old business that if we don't keep the old business going, we forget about it and it just falls behind. And things do take time and things need to progress. And we've got to move on and this isn't even what I prepared, but we've got to move on from what happened in the past. Forget about it. It's done. You can't change it. Move forward, clean slate. And make something happen and change. For the good, for all of us. For Village Fun Day, I didn't go yesterday, but I couldn't get anywhere because everything was closed, so I'm sure it was successful. Congratulations to everybody, because it's good to bring this stuff in and everything else, and it's money spent that will bring people in, but we also have to remember there's people that live here, and that we have to have things maintained too, to stay here, so you've got to find a balance of that as well. With that being said, Article 5, control of dogs and cats. Ballston Spa Village Code, Section 81-19, intent. The intent of this article is to preserve the public peace and good order of the village of Ballston Spa by controlling the running at large of animals and to control other obnoxious behavior which may be a nuisance to the residents of this village. From the town of Milton website, Due to state rules and regulations, the animal control officer does not handle cats or wildlife. At some point prior to Mayor Rossi being elected, the board chose to what I can only assume was to save money to get rid of the animal control officer. Animal control officer in charge of, they put it on the towns in force to enforce village code. They have learned the hard way, the extremely hard way, this doesn't happen. Two separate animal control officers enforcing two separate town codes and no village code. I'm not sure, but after a comment made by Trustee Raymond last meeting, which was don't want to raise taxes, going to have to cut agencies, when he was talking about the police agency, it feels like we are on a way to dissolution of the village. We are not enforcing village code in its entirety or intent, not just animals, but sidewalks, and who knows what else will pop up. What affects you, it will matter. When the town of Milton starts proposing their code to include wording, including those portions of the village of Ballston Spa that are within the town of Milton boundaries, it makes one wonder. Divided board, divided village. From the minutes on July 25th, village council reminded the board that in the code, it is the mayor and the board of trustees that is responsible for notifying residents of code enforcement. Well, one way to do that, the newsletter, where is it? Months ago, you guys had this huge debate over the newsletter. Lots of money, gonna send it out. We haven't received a newsletter since.
20
That would've
seconds,
been-
20 seconds.
That would have been a great way to get out this event that people have. It would have been a great way to say, hey, there's an animal code here that I don't want your damn cat. And I'm telling everybody in here, it started with one cat. I have every stray cat coming into my yard and I've tried everything and nobody's helping me. And I'm tired. I can't enjoy the village. I'm sorry I bought property here because I can't enjoy it. Can't do it.
Stop.
Thank you.
Come up here, everyone to see all.
Yeah,
Bob Bush, 71 Church Ave. No longer here is probably because of the crap, as I call it, different word than crap, that was going on here. I wanted to thank the Eagle Scout candidate, he's not Eagle Scout yet, he's a Life Scout, for coming to the board and proposing what he proposed. One of the requirements for Eagle Scout project, I don't know if anyone here knows it, is to beautify or improve your community in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how it's worded, it was worded that way when I was going through the process that he's going through. One thing I wanted to mention to you guys have all these things you want to do, beautify this or do this and so on and so forth. You ever thought about reaching out to the local troops? They have Life Scouts, they have Star Scouts, they have upcoming scouts that are getting through the ranks that would love to have an opportunity or have an idea what they can do. And you guys can kill two birds with one stone. He gets his reward, then you guys get work done around the village. You don't have to go and study or have this or have that to have slap some paint on something. It helps these scouts out to get their rank. And by doing that, I guarantee you have more involvement with the troops, you have more involvement with the community, helping these scouts trying to get that. I mean, I preserve, I'm more than happy to help that guy, this kid out to do whatever it is he's doing up there. That's all I gotta say.
At the last Liswell Park meeting, there was someone who had contacts with the Boy Scouts, and he was gonna reach out. I guess they're in flux to some degree because they lost their sponsor or something.
You have several different troops on here. I know you troop one, he was 256, which I don't know where that's based out of around here. You know where it's based out? London? Oh, okay, maybe he's probably a resident up here who goes down. Oh,
Bob, that's Mary Ann Morgan, by the way. I was gonna actually suggest you change information, and she's got Ben's information, and perhaps if you want to reach out to him, if we approve it tonight, you could reach out and help him out.
I mean,
We
there's,
had a double over time getting the scout troop to respond to us. We called a number of churches that sponsored them and nobody got back to us. And then this boy's grandfather knocked on Milton Town Hall and said, could our scout troop come up here and help you out? And, thank you, God. Yeah. So, I mean, that would be a nice thing if you could gather that, Frank, gather that information from him. Because yes, we have lots of projects,
Yeah,
lots of things available.
I said, I don't believe it's just the scout troops within the village. I think it's for community, it's any scout troop
Yes.
in any community.
Mhm.
So if the scout troops in here don't have anything upcoming, you may have one in Glenville, Saratoga, they're all over the place. So to get some of the work done, if you guys want to get done, instead of bickering back and forth that you guys are doing, reach out to a troop. I'm sure we contact Boy Scouts of America, they'll give you the list of the scout leaders. And you can say, hey, listen, we got this coming up, we want this getting done. Do you have anyone there that can possibly do this project as an Eagle Scout project that would be willing to? It's not just that individual that does it. He gathers a bunch of people to do it, and he supervises it. The reason why I know this is I went through the process and I got an Eagle Scout by paying 240 fire hydrants in this village.
Hey,
It was a process.
Thank you.
And then, if there's any more fire hydrants now, then we're back to.
Yeah, time's up. I think give you time back. Bill Williams. Yeah. Anybody else?
Pete Martin, 20 Chesterwood Court. First, I'd like to thank Mark for everything you did. You did a phenomenal job. I also think that Mark, going forward, should be paid for some of this, the things he's doing. It's unbelievable the stuff that he did. And I was there all day at that bouncy bounce. There were so many happy families, so many families that could afford to go there, couldn't afford to fare this year because of the prices. I mean, and the work that he put in, of course, Gina, you put a lot of work in too. But it's something that the board just, his man is gifted. And I think we all know it. Christine, thank you. Yes. Christine, thank you for explaining about the village hall, putting some perspective on that. It made it clearer for me. I couldn't understand what you were saying about the tanks. Do both tanks need to be replaced in your opinion, or just one?
No, there's only, the John Street Tower is the only one that
Okay.
has issues, but it's also the only one that's metal and it's rusting.
But do you think it needs to be replaced?
I don't know.
Oh, I
That's
thought
why-
you said, did you say Sean thinks it needs to be replaced? I couldn't hear you.
No, I mean, people I've talked to have said, you know, you should look at replacing.
Okay, so
or repairing.
I did hear you say that. You said you talked to some engineers. Could you tell me what engineers you talked to that said they need to be replaced? Well, I'd just like to know, because it's a lot of money for us to do it.
No, it's not a definitive, this one needs replaced. They just said, make sure you look at both cases, because the fact is a glass line tower will last much longer with less maintenance.
Yeah, but
The problem with the
who's
John
they? Who's there? Who said? I
I
like to
don't
know.
remember the
You
name
don't
of
remember?
the.
Okay, and the last thing,
It's something I think we should look at.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
okay, all right. I like
I
to
mean,
get
that's-
particulars, because that's a lot of money we're gonna spend. So if someone's saying we should do something, I would go talk to them
No,
myself.
and maybe best is just to paint it and it buys us 10 years, then let's do that.
And
But
the other thing is, I really think we have to stop bashing Mayor Woolbright and Christine Fitzpatrick and Mayor Rossi. I mean, Mayor Woolbright's not here mostly because of you, Liz, and you keep bashing him, and you keep bashing him, and he's not here to defend himself. So you don't say anything about Larry, and I'm not gonna say anything about you. And I think that's where we should leave it at. And let's just leave it at that, because you know why Larry's
people
not
would
here.
stop saying things about me that aren't true.
Oh,
And all I said about
okay.
Larry was the facts.
And
we
that's
went
all I
and
said
done
is
the-
facts.
And
I
got
just
a
said
lot of-
facts too. And you can ask Ben.
Okay, folks.
Ben, I told you the facts.
Folks. Who else?
So, we don't have to,
Anybody else in the room?
that's a whole nother conversation.
Andy?
This is a little on a lighter note.
Name and address, just
I
so.
was at Andy Ryder, 9 Heritage Place
Thank
in
you.
Ballston spot. Obviously, I wanted to thank Mark, everybody, Anna, Gina, all everybody for the great job you did at Fun Day. We all, it was awesome. But the one thing, and I don't want to get emotional saying this, was the morning program. For this, you weren't aware of it, but the special needs and different abilities. And I was lucky enough to be there for the 2 hours, and if anything, Mark, that has to continue. The mother that took her sunglasses off was crying. If it weren't for this, my child would never, ever be in a situation like this. This little boy who was begging a cadet, please, is there anyone else in there? He called me over and I said, you have my back. There's no one. Why does someone come in? No, you take as long as you want. And he came out and I don't know, but it was that morning program, you gotta keep it going. I mean, they came from Helping Hands, Wildwood, the parents were, it was awesome. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Mandy. Anyone else in the room? Michelle.
Michelle Besher, 14 Bath Street. I'm gonna start at the beginning, which I didn't even know about the morning program. That just cinched it for us. We were slow in the morning, so at our store, being up on Low Street and having the barricade, but we were ready for whatever. I mean, where I came from, we had family fun days, and they're meant to be, and they're a tradition, and they bring all sorts of goodness, and I didn't even know about the morning thing. I have a couple of suggestions when you get to that point, just because we're a business that doesn't necessarily cater to kids, aunties. You know, but we were a little slow in the morning, but we were fine later on because people were ignoring the barricade at the top of the street. But it seemed like an incredible thing. I was too busy to go down later in the afternoon, so I will give you guys credit for bringing that to us. So thank you very much. And then the rest of it is the usual thing that I usually complain about, which is the vitriol and the other stuff that goes on here every single time. And you can go back and watch these on YouTube and you can say, this person started it, this person started it, this person continued it, this person continued it. And it's just ridiculous. I'm not even gonna waste any more of my 3 minutes because I have nothing else to say. It needs to stop before it gets anywhere. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? We have a Zoomer. Lori, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to take a really quick minute just to thank the volunteers and the planning committee. Thank DPW for a really amazing family fun day. It was such a great day for the village, the businesses, the community, and the families. And as a committee, you guys thought of every single detail. I felt like it was an enormous event, such a heavy lift, and it was really wonderful to experience it in the downtown. I was mentioning to Mayor Rossi, it was kind of magical almost like something out of a Pixar movie with all the blow up, jumpy houses right in the middle of Front Street. It was really incredible. I think it was really meaningful for our community. And I think everyone would agree when you looked around, there was just joy on the faces of all the ages of the people that were attending. And it was really special. And I just wanted to say, a quick thank you.
Lori, just for the record, your address.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 25 Eastern Ave. Thanks.
Also, it's while you're there, I did neglect to state that Liz and I went on the Axe Street Preserve Trail hike with Joe and Eric from the Friends of the Hatteras, and what a spectacular area they've carved out over there and cleaned up and made accessible for folks. Hats off to the Friends of the Hatteras. Send our thanks again to Joe and to Eric if you can.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Another Zoomer, I think.
Keith Lewis, 38 East High Street, Ballston Spa. I'm going to reiterate some of the earlier comments about kind of the tone of the meetings. And I sit here and I was trying to think, what is this feeling? And it's like watching a combative sport, like a blood sport, because it feels so much like there's this political theatric.
Combating your microphone, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry?
We can't hear you.
Microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I was saying that I sit here, my heart is pounding because I feel like this is a combative sport. It's some sort of boxing match, and it's a lot of political theatrics. And I think you did do a great thing, Frank. This Family Fun Day sounds like it was a huge success. There is great outreach in the community. You have a great appearance in being a fabulous mayor, and I think it's wonderful momentum, and keeping that momentum going is so important. And you do set the tone for everyone else. It's the way it happens. You set the tone. And if what you're thinking is settling a score or proving a point, or even what you said to Christine Fitzpatrick, you know, I would love Christine not to attend the meetings, only because I know how painful it is. It's difficult when history is being rewritten differently. And that's kind of what happens when there's a political theatrics going on. I listened tonight as you were saying, why didn't you correct that, Liz? Why didn't you do this? You've been in, and Gina then spoke about how long she's been coming to meetings, and you have as well. And these issues have been going on a long time. And in the last administration, there wasn't even the ability to address them. And we could sit here and make those points, and everyone would become exhausted and bloodied, and it's tiresome. This is a great village. You have 5 board members. You don't have 2. You and Bernadette can't be the army. There were 5 people put in. 5 people need to find common ground on what is important for all of us. You're doing a great job. You can do a better job, but you're going to have to let that go. You guys are going to have to make up or get marriage counseling, because it's hard to listen to it. Thanks very much. And Anna, no, I didn't cut the sign in half, nor did I suggest it.
Keep the times up. I want to say one thing real quickly here. I think we're done with Zoom, but one of the things that irritated me about the way that you handled it, Liz, earlier, and this is the marriage counseling portion of the program. So last week we got water reports, reports from the tanks, and sent them out. I put up my synopsis on social media. I'm guessing you saw it. Bernadette, I think the next day, sent her take on it, and it's basically suggested, I'm sure I'm not the only person that's got these concerns. And I want to say I was teaching in Florida, or down in Florida, ready to teach right around that time. So it was Wednesday or Thursday, I want to say at that point, Wednesday. And I didn't have another email response about the tank situation until Ben gave a 3-liner, I think, today, just before the meeting. And it's like, we're using these meetings as gotcha moments to point the fingers and everything else. If the concern is about the water towers, make the concern about the water towers and emails. As people said here, why are we doing this in public view all the time about issues like these? Because there wasn't anything antagonistic in what she wrote or what I said in those. It was essentially, what should we be doing? What's the next steps? Or do you have anything specific you want to be the next step before Don gets back in town?
Well, just
We're making this into public
no, I just
theater.
wanted to explain, I read those reports this afternoon, because last week I was in Rochester on business. And this weekend I was celebrating, I volunteered.
Happy anniversary to you and Sandra.
Yeah, and so I didn't get to read this report until now, and I'm very, I just put out that I'd like to see some more information on, the pros and cons of repainting versus, and that it showed that we had, it wasn't an urgent tomorrow issue.
But I wouldn't even put it on the agenda if you had responded to Bernadette ultimately, because it's one of those incomplete issues, no matter how we handle it. And we've addressed, at least, we publicly stated on social media at the very least, okay, we're moving forward from here now. We don't know exactly what that means, but we're going to figure that out. I think,
don't
I
see
think it's a
anything-
communication thing that's got to resolve, because like I said, the way you delivered things tonight was in the gotcha sense, and it just drives me insane, because you know what? Thank you, Keith, for the compliment. I sincerely mean it. I thank you for that. And I think a certain aspect of the community has gotten quieter about just taking pot shots at me at every opportunity, because I think they realize that my heart and soul is in this job. No matter what, I want to make this community better. I want to see us succeed. And just throwing everything and trying to get things to stick because you don't like me politically or don't like who I am, that's not going to help our community. What's going to help our community is responding to each other and talking it through like rational human beings. Like I said to Ben, when he tried to throw 5 things onto the agenda for tonight, I said, Ben, we can take care of these via email. And I gave him responses to each one of them. And I did it respectfully. I didn't do it with any antagonism. That can be done. And I hope we do it from here on out so that we don't have to drive these meetings into this insane level of time and vitriol, I think was the word used by Michelle. So
You
let's hope.
put the water tank inspection reports on the agenda, and so I read them this afternoon, and I presented what I thought about them at this meeting. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
But you didn't pay attention to Bernadette's email about them? Because
No,
she
I
flagged some things.
complimented her on her summary. So what, and she summarized their recommendations, and I commented that I wanted a little bit more information, particularly since various people have said that if your tank is old, you should look at replacing it with a glass line tank. It's just something to look at. I'm sure it's a, short conversation with our engineer. If he has a good reason why that's not a good option, I'd like to hear. That's all.
But remember, the other 2 tanks, which are somewhat more recent, but not very much more recent, they said have 5 years before we'd have to consider a painting job on those too. So I'm not really sure, just to be clear on this, how exactly defunct that tower is or isn't in this respect, because they're all at some point in the next 5 to 10 years going to need to be handled in some manner similar to this. The glass line obviously may be less work, but in the short run to long run, you have to really balance it because it doesn't seem to be we aren't getting information that's consistent with everything you're saying there either. We have one more on Zoom, I guess. Go ahead. Okay. Nathan, I'm getting ready for First Friday trivia hints.
Yes, Nathan Ward, 1 Hyde Boulevard. I would like to thank DPW for repainting the street lines around the village. It looks very nice, and I hope it's helping with the traffic situation. We might be noticing more people stopping the stop sign at Hyde and Malta, but we'll see how it keeps on going. Also, the BSBPA has 2 events coming up. This Thursday is another concert in the park. So I hope that you guys can make it out there. Also, next, I guess 2 Fridays from now, September 2nd, is another First Friday. This next couple months will be a trivia theme. So Real McCoy is going to be hosting a trivia, and if you go to other First Friday venues or businesses and bring your receipt to trivia, you'll get hints for questions during trivia. Thank you.
I want to say also, you know what, when we did our organizational meeting, Nathan on the planning board situation was brought up, and people question his dedication, et cetera, all that stuff. I got to tell you something. He has impressed me beyond belief with his dedication to the BSBPA and this community. I want to thank him for that. I also want to state that I don't know if I have to do it, if I can self-appoint at this point, or if I would need the board's acclamation, but I'm going to actually do this as a board motion, and I'm going to do it right now. I'd like to move that Nathan Ward be placed as an alternate officially for the remainder of the official year of the Village of Ballston spot on the planning board. No, he was a holdover. I want to actually name him officially right now.
Oh, because you didn't replace.
Can I get the motion?
I'll make that motion right.
Can I get a second? So
Ben's been excellent.
Trustee Fontaine, trustee Cormos, Any discussion?
Yes, I'm glad we didn't remove him from this,
Yep.
since he is such a good
Absolutely.
citizen.
For to the degree that I was questioning him, I was wrong, and I am freely happy to admit when I'm wrong on something, and absolutely all in favor. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you again, Nathan. Anybody in the audience, before we go now into these, we'll have another public comment session. I'm sure everybody's thrilled here.
I just wanted to also, just for the record, thank Mark and Gina for your tremendous job, Family Fun Day. I'm not sure where to say that exactly, so I'll just say it here, but it was a tremendous effort, clearly, and very successful, and I really appreciate it. I had fun doing the bounce house for 4.5 hours down the road. But great day. Thank you for doing that.
It's okay, everybody.
I'm gonna give you a brief anecdote. So I had the bright idea of going up on the roof of village offices to shoot video overhead, because we didn't have a drone available or something, I guess. So asked DPW for their help. They brought a ladder, it was too short. So they had this ladder that was actually fit to go up to the roof somewhere on the 3rd floor. So he puts it up, and I'm looking at this thing, it's like not flat rungs on the ladder, but actual round rungs. This thing is flimsy as heck, and I'm like saying to myself, just don't look down, whatever you do. Go up it. Thing starts twisting as I get up there, so I start going up faster, get the overhead thing off. Scotty Kearns came up eventually to sensing I was probably gonna have trouble getting down. Did it, great, it's right up there, felt pretty safe, whatever. Come back down, thing starts twisting again. And I'm clenching basically all the way down. Get to the bottom of it. Thankfully, Seth was there to catch me if need be, I guess. I don't know if he would have, but I'm at the top of the stairs. I can't walk down the stairs. I clenched so hard going up and down this ladder that I couldn't move. I almost had to ask them to carry me down the stairs. I will tell you this. It's a beautiful building, but it does need in the upper floors, Bill Shaw's just some darn work at some point in time.
I just wanted to ask you, what's the roof look like?
Actually, better than you think.
They replaced it a number of years ago.
Yeah, it's all rubber, so if there's any weak spots up there, it's not gonna come in, because it's holding itself together well. But, yeah, that was the least of my worries. That was almost the end of your mayor. You would have had a 5th mayor in how long?
Just, you know, our DPW did that last 9/11 with sandbags on their shoulders.
I can't even imagine.
That's how dedicated they are.
Yeah, that, I looked at the ladder, it's got dents in it all over the place on the rungs themselves, and I'm like, this is probably the worst idea I've had in a long time. Anyway, there's my little bit of comic relief for the night. Sorry. Gotta get a motion that the attached budget transfers be approved, including your sidewalk reimbursement. No, well, it's in the, yeah. Can I get that motion? Trustee Beckett.
Well, I guess I can't.
No. Trustee Bezzatza, trustee Corbo, discussion, stay out of event, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstention. Gotta get a motion that the BSBPA be granted permission to reschedule the concert in the park rained out on July 28, 2022 on September 1st, 2022 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Iron Spring Park. Trustee Fondanza. Trustee Baskin, discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I give a motion that BSBPA be granted permission to reschedule the concert in the park and ice cream social rained out on August 4th, 2022 on September 8th, 2022 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Iron Spring Park?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Cormos.
On second.
Trustee Fondanza, discussion.
I think so fast.
I'm trying, man.
The only thing I'll say is I'm excited that they are going through the effort to reschedule it. They normally don't continue this late, but they know how much it costs. So I'm just excited.
Plus they have cookies, I think, still.
Yeah, there's cookies in the freezers. So.
All in favor? Aye, opposed. Motion carries. Gotta get a motion that Stephen Purcell be appointed as a part-time police officer. Trustee Baskin.
I'll second.
Trustee Fondanza, discussion. This was enabled, he's coming back because by making the move we did last time, the full-time officer freed up some weekend roles, and he is willing to fill in some weekend roles. So that's why Stephen's coming back.
So we're all all set on staffing.
It seems to be, I think, our candidate for full-time, went through civil service, stuff and everything, so. All in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. Can I get a motion that Gina Morosi be granted permission to hold a September 11th observance on 9/11/2022 from 6 PM to 9:30 PM and to close Front Street from Bath Street to Court Street?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Fandesa,
Second.
trustee Cormos, discussion.
Is this a village event or, I mean, just from definition? Because we have events that are sponsored by VSBPA or other organizations, but this is a village event, right?
I believe Gina's putting this together under the village banner essentially as something to officially commemorate. I'm not going to put words in your
No, I
mouth, however.
just want to understand.
I haven't been asked that question for the past 5 years. I'm not understanding.
No, it's just.
Someone had to fill out the
Family Fun
paperwork.
Day was the village sponsored. It has to do with insurance and liability.
The village has always covered it. Someone had to fill out the paperwork and put their name to it. That's what it is.
I think if we're covering the insurance and other opportunities like our volunteer days and was a part.
No, I have no problem. I just want to clarify what the arrangement is, that's all, just so it's clear.
All in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. Can I get a motion that a fire police be authorized to expend the amount of $1,422 for 4 pagers?
Make that motion.
Trustee Fandesa,
Second.
trustee Cormos, discussion. All in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. Can I get a motion that the police department be granted permission to submit for a grant through CSX for the amount of $13,000, no match?
I will make that motion.
Trustee Fandesa, trustee Baskin, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve a festival rodeo if you want, at the Saratoga County Fairgrounds on August 27, 2022, from noon to 11 PM. A permit will be issued upon receipt of proof of insurance.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Cormos, trustee Baskin, discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to authorize the Friends of Wiswall Park to host volunteer work days in Wiswall Park on 1 Friday, August 26th, from 9:30 AM to 12 PM and 1 PM to 4 PM. 2 on Saturday, August 27th, from 1 PM to 5 PM for additional weeding in the park. On Friday, 3 on Friday, September 9th, from 9:30 AM to 12 PM and 1 PM to 4 PM to address the bishop's weed in the beds that were previously weeded. And 4 on Saturday, September 10th, from 1 PM to 5 PM for additional work related to the bishop's weed. This will involve digging up soil in the beds, placing heavy-duty landscape fabric down, and putting down fresh topsoil. The village of Ballston Spa DPW will supply the road cloth.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Fandesa, trustee Baskin, discussion.
Yes, here's an issue with, I have an issue with the process of this as well, that, in general, if I submit an agenda or a motion, and you want to tweak it, that's fine, but I ask that you work through the original author, like in general, when any trustee makes a motion, that trustee sort of has ownership over that motion. And if another trustee wants to edit that, then it's a discussion with that original author. In this case, I'm fine, we're very close to the wording I had. It adds the date, the times for September, which is good. So I would have not had any problem with the wording of this agenda item, or just the process. The thing that I would not have supported is that there's a piece of the motion I submitted that was removed that I'd like to have put in, or it could be a separate motion if that's easier. And that was simply a sentence that says approve a plan to have volunteer organizations replace old park benches with new memorial park benches with private fundraising. Benches would not be permanently placed until after sewer work is completed, something like that. So that was a request, and that was a discussion at the Wiswall Park meeting. We have the Rotary and potentially other organizations interested in pursuing fundraising, and it takes a lot of time to get the benches, and it costs money, of course. So they just all they're asking from us is a green light. There's no money obligation, there's no time framework that we have to adhere to. So I'd like that to either be put into this motion, put back into this motion, or a separate motion for that? What do you think would be better?
Well, before I offer the motion maker, I believe was.
I was the motion.
Okay, so you would have to approve it and she would have to accept it. Let me ask you a question.
I put the motion in.
It's a little complicated.
Yeah, let me ask a question that would say, throw to me about the benches themselves. There was a question that somebody had, and I was away for much of this discussion. I basically sat down with the agenda and just cleaned up some of the things on this. The benches that exist, are they memorial benches that were paid for, et cetera, that we need to be
That's a good
cognizant of
question.
that?
There is like maybe Judy knows the number. Some of these benches are, and others not. Go ahead.
There's 2 memorial benches, they can be cleaned up, they don't need to be replaced in many opinions.
The other ones are non-memorial benches, are you suggesting from that? Okay, nobody seemed to have the right answer on that when I was asking quickly last week, so we want to make sure. Go ahead now.
And then, trust me, I don't want to change people's things or emotion. I think there's a couple complications about timing and detail, right? So I thought to keep that separate so we have more detail, because it was to approve a plan. When I read that, and I wish we had the opportunity, Judy, by the way, thank you. I threw like, what does this mean? What is this? You have the details on that. What's the time for that? You gave me a lot of details for the other part of the motion. But it might be nice to have a better idea of the plan. That's just my thought on it.
Judy wants to, since she's directly involved in the motion.
Not be a plan until we get the go ahead. And then we would plan, and then we would come back to the board to work on it.
So we
So
can give
it's
a
just like a
consensus.
general stuff.
Yeah.
Not a motion for it.
Yeah, the green light to allow them to start fundraising with the plan that they would replace.
That's my question. Where is the money going?
No, I have an update as of literally today.
Okay.
The Rotary has approved that they would donate the benches. So right now, there's, I would withdraw.
That's my question.
So remember that there is, here we go, process. There's the process of where the money has to go through and everything else. And so you have to work with Julia and make sure that that process is being adhered to for
Right.
legality purposes all the road.
There is no money involved
Okay.
in that.
But there's fundraising. So who's the fundraising?
No, I think they're not.
Rotary
Yeah,
is,
they're actually, okay. So let me do this. I'm going to suggest that we actually sever it. We'll just make up something simple and apply on an additional motion just to separate it here, because I think we've got a hard and fast one here, and then we have an ambiguity one probably on the
I
next one.
think on the second one, all you were approving is to allow the Wiswall committee to accept benches for
You
Wiswall.
plan on how you're gonna make that motion in a second. All in favor of this original motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Liz, if you wanted to take your hand up?
Well, I mean, I wrote this out. I don't know if this
This
is.
is the way-
Everyone knows.
Yeah.
But it just says approved plan to have volunteer organizations, because it could be more than Rotary.
So say it once directly so that we have.
I'll say, it again.
Yep.
Approved plan to have voluntary organizations replace old park benches with new memorial park benches with private fundraising, period. Benches would not be permanently placed until after sewer work is completed, and maybe that needs tweaking, maybe. But the idea was, there may be some work done, and we don't want to put concrete foundations down with these benches if we ever dig up. So that was a conversation we had, like, should we go ahead and do this fundraising, even if we don't know exactly when or where they're going to be placed? This consensus was, yes, let's just go ahead and start the process. It's gonna take a long time to put this in place, so let's just start it.
Okay,
And,
so
we won't
couple-
permanently place it until.
Couple issues here that I'm spotting though as we talk now too. Just bear with me here, folks. We would have to deem the old benches as surplus. So we cannot just say, go out and take out the benches. That's number one. Okay, that's just a rule of thumb.
So we wouldn't take anything out. This is gonna be like a year from now when actually this all happened. Right now, just fundraising.
Okay, so can I get a motion that the Friends of Wiswall Park Club or Committee and the Rotary have the right to explore the replacement of benches in Wiswall Park and the board will seek reply or information. And those clubs or committees will report back to the village board before any further work related to those benches occurs. We'll stop there. We'll fill in the blanks with respect to the surplus declaration, anything else that needs to happen.
You really need a motion for them just to be talking?
Well,
That's the thing, and that's why.
yeah,
it's out.
she wants some kind of assurance that we're interested in what's going on.
Right.
Here's what I got from you.
That's right.
Right?
You know, they're gonna fundraise these benches. They want our okay that yes, this will.
So I agree with you, Liz, but I'm also trying to accommodate her, right? I get it.
I mean, I think the language I put in is generic enough that it. would-
Yeah, but-
Julia's face looks like you want to say something, and
I just don't think any motion put together should allow Friends of Wiswall to fundraise. If someone else is getting the funds and ordering the
This
benches,
doesn't
that's
even
fine.
say, it says approved plan to have volunteer organizations replace old bark benches with new memorial benches and private fundraising. That's all it says.
Well, I think I want to leave, the way I suggested just says basically, the way I just put it just basically says, hey, go out and explore, get a plan, report back to us. But we're basically saying she'll have a motion in her hand that says, hey, the village board is okay with us going out and doing that next step. So if they get interested donors or Rotary finds, the ability to do this, they'll basically get pledges and then come back to us and we'll collect money until that point or.
No, why not? Well, that seems the reverse. Why not just give them the green light? And they've already started with this.
Because you're asking them to possibly raise money to replace something that hasn't been deemed surplus yet through.
Oh, so get the demon surplus first?
Yes.
Well, the thing is, we don't have to really deal with the existing benches. They want to accept benches, they're not accepting money.
Yeah, accepting benches is different than accepting fundraising to purchase benches.
Yeah,
That's,
take the
Well,
fundraising out
they're
of
doing
it.
it. No, they are fundraising,
they,
but it's not us fundraising. Why can't they? No, the Rotary is.
they would also purchase the benches themselves. Your motion is
are.
unclear of that, though. It's
Yeah.
stating that Friends of
To
Wiswall
accept
would.
benches
do
from volunteers.
Judy, was what I suggested okay for you in terms of devising a plan and coming back to us with exactly what the plan is for replacement? Let's go there then. It's ambiguous enough.
We're not gonna give them the green light, or we are.
I recommended a motion that the Friends of Wiswall Park Committee and the Rotary would devise a plan and report back to the village board.
leave Rotary out of it at
Take
this
Rotary
point.
right up.
At this point.
Take Rotary right up.
That the Friends of Wiswall Committee will devise a plan related to the replacement of benches in Wiswall Park and will come back to the village board before any further actions are taken.
That's not a committee, it's a club.
Well, they call themselves a committee, they are a club in principle, but they're a committee in their names. I have to identify them as whatever they're identified as. Can I get that motion?
Yeah, sure.
Trustee Bonanza, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Yeah, I have.
Trustee Baskin.
Now, this.
Yeah.
So how does this keep us from getting to where where we started with this, to accept the plan? Or to accept the idea of replacing park benches? That's what we're gonna do next 2 weeks from now?
I think what, oh, sorry.
Yeah,
No, I was
this is Stephanie's big moment. Let's not.
She's gonna return. She just authorized her to move forward with the concept and to return to this board with that concept.
Then we would approve.
Then
or
you'll
whatever
take
that-
action as to what steps.
Approve it, deem surplus, etc.
It's more concrete.
All in favor of this really weird motion I just made? Discuss it. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Got to get a motion to approve the purchase of street name signs, poles, and related equipment from Highway Traffic Supply Company for an amount not to exceed $14,824 and authorizing the mayor to execute any agreement related to such a purchase. Note, this will be reimbursed by the county through the contract approved during the 8/8/2022 board meeting. Invoice was provided. Trustee Bonanza.
Second.
Trustee Cormos, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that the mayor will work to establish an official village email survey system in order to obtain the capacity to collect village residents' opinions on official village business in a timely manner. Survey questions can be submitted for consideration by any board member and would be approved by a majority vote of the board prior to distribution. To be included as a survey recipient, residents would submit their email addresses to the village along with their place of residence to ensure respondents are village residents.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Baskin,
Second.
trustee Cormos, discussion.
Yes, so just thinking back on any public communications, we had added adjustment to have a supermajority. Would you guys be willing to include that rather just than a supermajority? Because then we're asking questions unified at the board more so. And that was something you guys were willing to accept if we're on when we did organization stuff.
So is that for the newsletter?
Yeah.
I guess you think we can work together?
I think we can, but I think the point is like, because a vote requires supermajority, it'll be less likely to have like.
That's fine for that. I've been wanting this for a long time, like before Frank was mayor, so I'm happy to get.
It's something that-
I'm not blaming Christine.
You know, you can speak to it better, the town of Ballston has been doing quite successfully, and I think it's another.
That's a school district.
And the school district as well, and, you know, responding to the public, asking them their opinion on some of these issues is important.
Yeah, so you guys are willing to do that? I
Can
appreciate that.
can I get, the amendment of this would become, in the middle portion would be approved by a supermajority vote of 4/5 or greater, of the board prior to distribution. Would you accept that, Ben? I believe was the motion maker.
Sure, I'm trying to anticipate that there's some gridlock, but yes, I will do that in the spirit of cooperation.
And the second from Liz was accepted, so we have a revised motion for the discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that Eagle Scout candidate, Bob? Eagle Scout candidate?
You said it, yeah.
Like,
He's ranked as Life Scout.
currently.
Can I get a motion that Life Scout Ben Jewell be permitted to perform the work detailed during the presentation of the Village of Ballston Spa Board of Trustees meeting on August 22nd, 2022. After a certificate of insurance is provided, naming Village of Ballston Spa as also insured.
So, who needs insurance from them? Do they have insurance?
It's the Eagle Scouts or Boy Scouts, so yes.
I'll make their second motion.
Need be made, so trustee Baskin, trustee Fundane said discussion.
Yeah, my question is, yeah, does he have to provide his insurance certificate, or is he like Liz Wall? You know, volunteers working and then we assume.
In this case, it's physical work, and so,
Paperwork under your hand.
yeah, they're also suited for this. It's an official organization.
So it's the Boy Scout providing us. Correct.
Yeah, and so Mary Ann, if you work with Ben, just make sure we get that. I appreciate that.
It's just one of the things that we have to be careful of.
Yeah.
Is liability and making sure we're covered.
Well, there's a bear in the woods currently.
There is?
Right, Mary Ann.
Oh, great.
Yep.
So I will-
Which we can learn what the adage is or isn't, as I said there earlier, but I'm not gonna go find out myself. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Is he insured?
Yes. The motion carries. The bear is insured. Trust me.
How about the village?
Yeah. Other business? Public comment on all Bill's business. Numero dos. Gina Morosi.
Hi, Gina Morosi, 10 Oak Glory Lane, two quick things. One person we neglected to thank for Family Fun Day is Mayor Romano. I know we're not supposed to talk about other mayors. However, it was his vision to create these family events. And it was dropped for a while, and we picked up his ball and ran with it again. So I want to make sure that we all thank Mayor Romano for creating these wonderful events. Second, and this is another, I think you're gonna like this too. I took a break and I was looking at Facebook and I just saw this. Dave Cerrone, who was one of the singers and the contract guy for the refrigerators, put out a post. So many little ones in Beth was the female singer. Beth's fan club came up and put money on stage for her.
Yeah.
Of course, we, the refrigerators, would never just take money from these wonderful children for our own. But instead, we thought it'd be great to match the amount and make a donation to the St. Jude's Children's Hospital in recognition of these great kids in this great community of Ballston Spa. We did just make a $50 donation to St. Jude's Hospital, and we did recognize the children in the Ballston Spa community. We can learn a lot from our children. And this is what makes it worth it. This is what we need to invest in for our community. This is great things happen. We need to embrace our volunteers. We need to embrace these events. It does nothing but good for our community. That's it. Thank you.
Judy. Did you get the report done for the benches?
So I thank everyone for that. Judy Esposito, 48 Chapman Street.
Step up too. It's so good to
48
see you.
Chapman Street. And I just want to say thank you for that discussion on the benches and the workday. And I just wanted to add something to the workday. It's not only the Friends of Wiswall Parks workday, it's for everybody. And I haven't, because of the approval process, I was a little bit reluctant to send out, on social media about it, but everyone is welcome to come. And, even if you don't know anything about gardening, and I just wanted to say that, the community working together at our last work day was really, really a lot of fun. And thanks to Mark and Gina also for that work day. And, if anyone's coming, just so you know, we bring pitchforks, shovels, edgers, wheelers, and gloves.
Anybody else in the house? I see Ray Otten's hand.
Yeah, I got
Ray Otten's address is.
16 Meadowbrook Avenue, I think. I wasn't there much yesterday.
Where were you?
Front Street. I was on Front Street, but
You just
this is what yesterday was like, believe it or not. We had mention of the during the liaison reports. Who is the liaison for the Park and Tree Committee?
So we had a little issue in terms of, so when you become mayor, and Christine can vouch for this probably as well, you get handed a list of things that have been done for years in a certain way. And so when it came to assignments related to parks and trees, they were separate and didn't really acknowledge the Park and Tree Board as probably being what the liaison should be. And I didn't catch that back when. And so Ben and Liz, when we were having one of our wonderful email exchanges last week, caught the idea. And I actually, to just be quick and clarify it, I terminated them as the liaisons for the parks and the trees, however it's turned, and named them as co-liaisons now for the Park and Tree Board, so that I wasn't shortcutting or short-circuiting either one of them in their involvement with that committee. So just be aware that that's happened. I have that discretion, and I'm glad you brought it up so I could tell folks.
So there are two.
There are two.
Okay.
That was as of last week, I officially.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
And the liaison's job is.
Well, it's a discretionary thing from the mayor to have people who are liaison to go out and help gather information, report back to the mayor, et cetera, to essentially be our eyes and ears. They can't make decisions or things like that. I'm basically handing a piece of my executive authority over to liaison, at least for the information gathering portion of the process.
Okay, one of the problems last week was mentioned that there was no meeting. I was there and there was supposed to be a meeting. It was at least on my little phone. And it ended up there was no meeting, but there was a communication issue, which I discussed with someone today. And I think we worked it out that all along we were told that there was a Park and Tree email
Distribution.
group.
Right.
There was no group. And that's one of the reasons why I ended up showing up. And thank you to Caitlin for coming down and telling me, oh, there's no meeting. So that hopefully that's going to clear up.
I mean, it's a simple matter of making an email group. I have probably 40 of them in my job. And I'm glad that's gonna work out so that we all get all the emails and we know when there's not gonna be a meeting. It's something that needs to happen, as being part of that committee or whatever its title is. It's important. You know, if I had known it wasn't gonna be a meeting, I maybe could have watched Wheel of Fortune or something. I don't know. Whatever we can relax with. The other thing is, I have a confession to make to Mark and Gina about yesterday. And not for Gina, she's giving me the secret. We were selling birdhouses from the old birdhouse thing,
Yeah.
right, Mark? All right, and what were we supposed to be getting for them? $10, right? That was the donation that we were asking people. You talk about the kids. I gave away 2. Because I had kids, 2 kids came up to me that really, really loved certain birdhouses. One was the Sesame Street one, the other was the Dragon. And I made a deal with both of these kids. I had the same deal. They were at different times. I told them, how much money you got? One kid said $1. I said, put it in that bucket. He put it in the donation bucket. I said, now go take that, but you have to be good and do whatever your parents say for the next 3 months. I'm gonna tell them and they're gonna call me.
Whoa.
And the parents looked at me like I had 3 heads. And the kids, I said, you gotta promise, and they both promised to be good.
Okay, so Ray,
That's the kind of stuff that we did yesterday. And the kids loved it. They loved the toys and the books, the card, the supplies and all that. That's what Family Fun Day was for yesterday, is for those kids.
Ray, you broke a tried and true rule about giving away village property. Gina, to cover for his sins, please take this, because he just admitted on the record.
Say you owed me $9.
No, there's 2.
Two.
Pay for 2.
Okay, all right.
You're fine.
He's done.
I will call Dave Bush afterwards to investigate this super pride in offer.
Barry told me it was all right to do.
Wow.
So implicating.
Joanna.
101 Plain Street. I just want to say, I was stationed at the booth for the children's math, with the color. It was busy all day. They were wonderful. The kids, in seeing the kids, it was just amazing. Parents were, whatever type of thing. So they promised stuff, it was okay to say, you know, for fine, you want to color, and just take them home, color them yourself. They were thrilled with their parents. But in the interim of just the joy of the children, I cannot tell you how many parents came through and being born and raised here and doing these functions with John Romano when they first started back in the day for years and years. It's something that so true blue should never ever go away from the community. And I had so many people who I knew were new to the area were saying, I cannot believe you're doing this for the community at no cost. They were just enjoying and they couldn't be thankful enough. And then being told, you know, to let people know that we had helmets for children. And just kind of like spreading the word here and there to those. Just let you know, you have to helmet down, and some like be thrilled and couldn't wait to take their children. And then others just saying, that is just amazing that you offer something like that. Because so many children need it, from parents who knew that not their children, but someone else that really needed something like that. And it was such a gift. And it was just thrilled. There's just one little story. This little girl with her grandma wanted to color a picture, and so did the sister. So the older one's always done first. And she's like, I asked to take a picture. She was so intrigued with it. I will come, and look her grandmother, how you doing? And she didn't care that she was elbow to elbow. She did not leave until the picture was done. And I took her picture. Sweet little thing. She's like, thank you very much.
Frank, I just share one other quick story. This was the afternoon.
Mandy Ryder.
But it was, I was now with the putting green, and the line behind the putting green is just incredible. And the little guy, and his mother took a little boy out of the stroller, and the club was taller than the boy. So he, trying to get it in, and all his other little kids waiting. And so we said, come on, let's put him on. He can do this. And the club's going, there's another way you can play golf. So I took the ball and I put it like right here next to the hole. And all you have to do is sniff it. And then I think his sister goes, does he get a ticket? If it goes in. So of course it went in the hole, but there's probably 6 or 7 kids just all cheering for him. And I'm like, they don't even know this little boy. And they were so, and he didn't really know what happened, but he was jumping up and down and trying to get the ball out. You gave him a mulligan? Yeah.
The ticket Gestapo has spoken. Donna Martin.
Well, we're all sharing these wonderful heartwarming stories.
Still identify yourself.
20 Trustee Report. So first I want to thank Liz, Ben, Mayor, Bernadette, Terry, those of you up there that volunteered your time, and I know you guys all enjoyed it as well. I know Ben did, I saw that. And so I really wanted to do cotton candy. But thank God, because after I saw Mark, beard, cars, I mean, he had cotton candy everywhere. But I went and helped him, and my big job was handing him the cones. But one little boy came up and he had about 20 tickets, and he goes, it was great. He walks up and he goes, can I get cotton candy with my tickets? I'm like, absolutely. And, so we passed on the word, you owe me 50 cents. Oh, so it was really a great event. And if you didn't volunteer this year, you need to next year, because it was as much fun for the adults as it was.
Chris, do you saw the picture of Mark early on? Good. We'll be using that for years to come.
It was horrible.
I have to say, I really thought the car wash.
Yeah.
But it was beautifully executed, and there was 3 brothers who spent a lot of time in the bouncy house, and then went into the cars, lined up, and went through 2 or 3 times because they wanted to make sure every car got cleaned. And we actually have photographic proof. I know Bernadette, you have John Romano.
Oh,
yeah. And I have Danny Fillmore. And I had to leave, but I said, no, that's pretty much true. I was convinced that by 3 o'clock tomorrow, yes, it was Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, that the adults would be pushing the kids out of the way tomorrow.
Yeah. The best part of John Romano going through is they didn't realize at that point.
So can I give one?
Yeah, if you're going right ahead.
So in the morning, Christine and Danny, we were on the far end of Front Street, and I was assigned to the car wash. I've never messed with a fire hydrant in my life. I was a little afraid of that. So Daddy told me, just turn the handles. Okay, I turned the handle. The water is going, and it's going pretty hard, but yeah. But John Romano still went through. He goes, I'll dry off. And he came out so, and come to find out, Daddy told me later, or actually DPW, one of the guys from DPW goes, oh yeah, you gotta turn it down after you get it up to full. So John, who's always advocating, there was, good sport still, and nearly damaged his phone for the sake of.
And now Bob and Julie will be billing you for excess water usage.
His phone was working tonight.
He told me, yeah.
Love the rice, never heard. Anna,
I'll share one quick one.
Anna Stanko.
Quick one. Worked with Mark at the
Cotton candy.
cotton candy. One guy comes up who happened to be bald, and by then the cotton candy was flying everywhere. And a piece of it flew, and the guy said, he went like this, and he picked it up and he ate it. Yeah.
We're just like,
Yeah, but that's funny.
yeah, they were like, just pay for everyone behind us.
Yeah.
Paid for.
And I'm at work and I'm going, what is that? It almost looks like there's tattoos on my arms. It's blue dye from when you were pouring the dye in and it was whipping back on my face. I got like blue dots all over.
I don't know how Peter Martin got the dye from the ice off his hand. That was horrible.
Oh, but what, just one more thing. In the morning, I guess it was first thing in the afternoon, a family came through. And I personally, I thought school supplies was a dumb freaking idea. Who's gonna want this stuff? They want toys. There were so many families, but there was one family in particular. They had two little boys and you could tell they did not have any money. And they came through when they were trying to pick, and I said, oh, close your ears, Gina.
Here we go again.
Just take what you want. Do you need some gold? They were so thankful. I mean, they literally were just, I mean, it cheered me up that these parents were so thankful that, you know, they had no money to buy. I mean, school supplies, you're spending $100 before you even got out of aisle number 1 these days. So it was just so nice to these people. And that's what it's all about. You know, there are the takers that just are greedy but you know what? To heck with them.
I had a family like that, two girls. Two boys and two girls, same thing.
Yeah.
And I had this little girl came running over to the yellow notebook. And the funny thing is, mommy, I don't have to use Joey's old notebook. Look at it. I got a new yellow one.
All right, so it owes me money.
She was thrilled that she had her own brand new notebook.
And any other testimonials, it's like other comments.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mark Blake, 10 Thompson Street. I actually have to apologize to Mayor Rossi because I was covered in sugar. And
My bathroom was fine when you came in and washed off, don't worry.
I went in, took my shirt off, washed myself, and washed my shirt out in Frank's bathroom. And I was just all over the place. So.
No larger contribution was made yesterday. Who else in the room? I do see a hand on Zoom, so I want to make sure we get to that. The return of Keith Lewis.
38 East High Street, Ballston Spa. Listening to that, it would be a great idea next year, maybe get a videographer and have somebody shoot that, because those wonderful stories shouldn't be lost. They should be documented and kept and just live on, because they're great to listen to. I wanted to talk about the fact that there hasn't been any further discussion about Saratoga County, leaving Ballston Spa. And, that's a big concern. We've been the county seat since 1817. And, they've moved some of the offices out. I talked to some employees who acted as if it was eminent. Lisa Spidell talked about the fact of the problems within the building and the fact that they have to move things. Frank, you have considerable contacts within the county. Bernadette, you do within the state. I think that the board should be getting together and talking about what to do in anticipation of that report. I don't think we should wait until after it's delivered and the county decides to move over to Malta, because for me, I think that that's being reactive. I think when I talk to the businesses, they aren't aware that the county is considering moving. They don't know that information. They're not making decisions with that as being a possibility. I think it would be horrific for us to have that. It could send the village into a spiral downward for some period of time until something could be figured out. I don't think we should look at it as a development opportunity. I think we should look at it kind of like a wife whose husband is leaving them after they put them through college and, you know, got them their law degree and you know, now they're like leaving them the shack and taking the house and all the money and everything. I don't think it's good for Ballston Spa. And I would hope that we would get together and consider ways of bringing this into the conversation of what can we do to possibly avert that. Thanks.
Okay, time is up, and please, that strange analogy, ouch.
Well, I
But,
think it's more or less like a factory closing. A
well,
lot of employees leaving.
and we've beaten that dead horse of explaining, I think, what could happen, what the possible effects were. Just to be clear, the report is due out, I believe, in the next 2 to 3 weeks ultimately, and that was the time that we're priming to get ready for action. Our next meeting is 3 weeks away, so we may have more at that point for the community to hear about. There is nothing to report new. I can tell you that from my conversations. But remember, we were proactive in just making sure as we go toward the overlay district approach, et cetera, to include that property with the idea that, hey, it could be necessary to have the right zoning on it or in some way, shape or form to, you know, allow for some flexibility and versatility on that space. So I think we have been, at least to the degree we can for now, proactive. I will also be, as I suggested, probably having some discussions, maybe a Zoom with small business owners to discuss issues like that and to begin to get their ideas, their concerns, their thoughts as well. So keep right on. It's something that I want to just make sure. I've heard varying things behind the scenes. I can't confirm or get confirmed the information. Some people think that no, it is not imminent, in fact, because what's coming out from State Farm Complex might be that it will cost more than they think to redo those buildings. So I would not say it's a done deal yet. And so I don't want to waste too many resources until we hear in a couple of weeks. But if it is going to move, it's going to be multiple years and not a single day process as well. And so we will have time to handle it in a methodical and positive way, despite the negatives that come with it. But remember, on the flip side, there are positives with respect to taxes and also new people coming through businesses down the line with whatever the future uses are. And so we will have to weigh that stuff. Also talk to the county about how to sort of replace their divots in the best possible way, not just the building divots, but also the financial strain they could be causing in that situation. And that will be a conversation to be had if we get there, and it needs to be had.
Well, the question, what I'd like to know is, what is the county's processes versus this study, which they're doing on the feasibility of leaving? I can assume that, or does it include a building assessment? You know, what is this study that they're doing? What does it contain?
It's a building assessment from what I understand, yes.
So they're having an assessment of their current building, but are they also having an analysis of going somewhere else? That's another step. First, you look at what the building is, what it's gonna, you know, like
I
it is
think-
a village hall, what it's gonna cost to
Yeah,
fix.
we mentioned, Keith mentioned it, in fact, in his discussion. I think there's no secret about what the other option is, ultimately a location. Have they confirmed that? No, but there's only so many 350,000 square foot structures in the area that would be able to house it.
Well, they could always go doing all that. There's usually lots of options. But the question is what is the process for them to make a final decision? Yes, we're going to leave Ballston Spa, because we need to know when in the process that is, and, you know, can we have any influence on that decision? I know we don't have representation in county government, but we do have people, and, you know, if it's maybe not that different to move than to fix these buildings, you know, could we sway the decision to stay if that's what we want? And, you know, there's the negative of them not paying property tax.
Well, you go hound Eric Connolly, I'll go hound Scott Ostrander more than I already do about this. And I don't know what the reaction is on Eric's side to it, but with respect to Scott, he's got an open mind about it. He wants to see what the feasibility plan says because he's a member of a board of supervisors and he's got to do the right thing related to the county and his town first and foremost too. But he does care about the village and knows that the village is encompassed inside part of his town. So he's cognizant of it. You make sure if you want, because you've got a better link to Eric than I do, I think, go ahead and talk to him about it.
But what, do you know what the process is that they're going
The
through?
process, the only process so far that's been stated and that's been told to me at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, is they are waiting for that feasibility study to see what it says because it will answer a lot more questions than they, have any answers to currently. And then they will assess it with their subcommittees and then the grander committee of the board of supervisors.
So probably a multi-month.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It's just that, I think the board and the public would like to know as much about that process and whether the board, as a group can have any influence. Of course, you guys have some, and then our residents, how our residents feel about this.
Well, I think I don't need to really have a survey to know how the residents feel about it. I think everybody's concerned and feels it sucks, to put it bluntly, that it could happen. Having said that, as you said, we may have no sway over it ultimately. In realistic, right. And so the thing you do when you know that's a problem is you also try to figure out what to do to make sure you fill in those gaps and remind the county that regardless of whether they move or not, Ballston Spa is still part of Saratoga County and an important one at that. So you better make sure that the village of Ballston Spa survives and doesn't go downhill because it's a way too important piece of your entirety to just let go to, what.
Yeah, and that is the leverage, is the sense of responsibility, potentially / guilt. They're moving. And so, for example, that could potentially be leveraged into some opportunity for a DPW property, out. Not downtown, I wouldn't put it, but, out with their, or something, they probably will provide something in return.
Wow, I would be very concerned about those buildings, given what we've heard, their reuse. If it costs too much for them to fix the building for their purposes, it's gonna cost the private developer money to do it.
My sense from what I've been told is that there may be asbestos in the older buildings because of the date they were built. And if that is the case, that they know that they're not going to be reusable in any sense. And so they would most likely remove those buildings completely.
That
Okay.
would probably be, if this happens, it would be the best.
Is that a vote from the board of supervisors? No, it is not. However, there are enough people who are cognizant of it over there that wield enough influence that have at least acknowledged that that would probably be a correct and smart move under the circumstances. So
It's a huge building.
I'm well aware.
Particularly if it's got asbestos in it.
Hey guys, isn't this public comment? Can we go home?
Yeah.
Well, we have one more hand, actually. Yeah, Zoom. Lisa.
Lisa Spidell, 106 Prospect Street. I just want to, I put my hand up because Keith Lewis mentioned my name and I just want to clarify something, not clarify, but add to something. But I just spent I'm going to say 8 minutes. I had to plug my battery in because it's almost out, because you guys just had a conversation on what if and what maybe and what not, that really right now it doesn't matter. It's late. People want to go home. I want to go to bed, But with that being said, I don't know if anybody took notice, if you use the parking lot for that family fun day up at the West High Street County building where the old jail used to be, there's a whole bunch of construction going on there with what you'll find out what it's going to be when it's built, but it's brand new and it's some major construction going on. So with that being said, and I don't know anything, I just work there. I go in 9 to 5, put my day in and I leave. But there's something happening there. Who knows what this assessment's gonna show? None of us know. But with that being said, we should always be, as a village, forward thinking as to how can we do better for everybody to keep people coming no matter what happens. We don't have full control over what the county does. But hey, maybe we do need to keep our stores open. They said on Sunday that the stores were open and they were happy to be there and whatnot and everything else. Well, there's times I go down there and I can't visit the stores. That's my day off, but they're closed. Maybe that's an idea. Draw some business on the weekends, draw some business at night. Do that now so that you're prepared if something does happen. Don't go on the what ifs. I mean, this isn't much time to wait for this assessment from what I understand. Mayor, I think that you have an idea of, a general idea of when this assessment was supposed to be completed. Therefore, if it's 3 weeks, hey, let's, you know what I mean? Let's just wait and see, but always be forward thinking. And that's my 2 cents. But, Keith is like, hey, that it's great that we're keeping this stuff on the forefront because that's what needs to be done, to always keep thinking and make sure stuff doesn't get lost in the shuffle. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
You too, Lisa. Anybody in the room? Board comments, questions, and concerns. Anyone? Just want to say that what a relief it was to go teach a class down in South Florida with 23 out of the 25 students actually in the classroom. I was not ready to teach. I wasn't focused on it, and it was such a game changer. And I hope that kids, or grandkids, or whoever that you have, begin to appreciate the return of normalcy. I think we're going to see in the school year after what we've been through the last couple of years, because it's a game changer for me and probably for them as well. Motion, can I get a motion that the vouchers number 22-01023 to 22-02276 and 23-01902 to 23-00547 be audited, and the meeting adjourned at 9:41 p.m. Trustee Baskin. Trustee Cormos, discussion, all in favor? Aye, opposed. Have a great Labor Day. We'll see you in 3 weeks.
Yeah.